Right, okay then. So, if you've been following our adventures in watching this week's Coronation Street on YouTube this week, if you'll realise I've not been a massive fan of the whole week. So this is with some trepidation I record tonight's Street Talk, although definitely tonight's saved it for me in a very good way. We're going to start off with a Rufus killer storyline. Do you get it? Sounds like Ruthless, doesn't it? And then we have got Damon in the sack.
Oh no, I don't like that.
What? Why don't you?
Yeah, because it's grim, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's supposed to sound like Demon in the sack.
I get it. I'm not stupid.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm in a bad mood. Michael's just been mucking about.
I know we have had a bit of a break between filming that.
Get on with it.
But it's okay. Freddie or not, here Roy come.
Here Roy comes.
No, that doesn't make sense. That's not what you say.
I don't get it.
Never a lender to Glenda be. Oh, there we go. You hadn't heard that one before, had you? And then we had a bit of a return of the Acid Ryan story at the end of today as well. So I assume that you want to take the lead on the Rufus Killer story. I have to apologise as well for this. Like my notes for this are all a bit jumbled. So Paul was kind of involved in this storyline without realising it. And originally I had the Paul stuff separate, but then I thought I'm going to put it back into it. I did that before tonight's episode. He didn't even show up in tonight's one. So I've kind of got the notes for what happened to everybody else on Monday. I've got to explain this.
Okay.
Because people might not understand it.
Get on with it.
What happened with everyone else but except Paul. Then we'll talk a bit about what Paul did. Then we'll go to Wednesday and talk about everyone else but Paul did. And then we'll say what Paul did on Wednesday.
No, sounds boring. Right.
Gemma's in a really rotten mood this evening.
I want to get on with it. I want to watch Succession.
What do you mean?
I want to watch Succession.
That is many hours away, Gemma. I have to reveal to you, I'm afraid.
It's longer when you moan.
I'm not moaning.
Monday. Shut up. Right. On Monday in the cafe, Stephen tells Elaine about the Gazette wanting to interview him for a piece on Nipper Snapper going global because it really doesn't make any sense. So they're like, please tell us more about your improbable business success.
This is just like the John State thing again, isn't it? Like, unusually large
amount of
press interest on this. No, I'm not going to... I mean, okay, having a serial killer is maybe a bigger story than whatever this business deal
man
is.
Sells T-shirts to Americans. Ronnie's listening in and tells Stephen, I hope you're going to give Michael some credit. Then Stephen gets a call from Rufus, who wants to see him in the factory in an hour. And Stephen tries to put him off, but Rufus isn't taking no for an answer. Oh, how's that going to turn out for him? Stephen gets to the factory, finds Michael's there working on designs, and then Stephen says, I'm going to have a meeting. Michael's like, I want to come. And he's like, no, you can't. You're not dressed properly. So Rufus...
Yeah, Stephen's
This was Bank Holiday Monday, by the way, which means that everyone was out of work.
Stephen wants to put Michael off, doesn't he? Because obviously they're going to be doing dodgy business,
blackmail.
Monkey business. And Michael is not allowed to hear about that. And there's 50%, 25%, 30%. So he tries to palm him off by saying... they want to talk about... You're not dressed right. So Rufus arrives and Michael turns up and he's gone home to put on like a nice outfit. And Rufus is like, how interesting. How good to see you. And Stephen's like, oh, no. Rufus, I know he was like, Stephen gets the last laugh in this, but Rufus is still at this point just loving making Stephen squirm.
Scamp. Rufus tells Stephen that Michael's got really great designs and he's a star in the making. Is this just all an elaborate prank on Michael?
I don't know, but I was just going to say how ironic it is that by the end of the week, Rufus is a star. Up in heaven.
He is. So he sends Michael off to make some tea, and then Rufus tells Stephen, right, I want 50% on the American deal. And Stephen's
I can't remember what his percent was before. Was he on 30% before that?
I can't
He's just
remember.
Really pushing it.
Stephen says, I'm not going to be ripped off here, Rufus. And then Michael comes back with the tea, and Stephen gets rid of him by saying, Sarah wanted you to go to the hotel for a meeting because she's having a shagging session.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously needs Michael's help. Michael goes and then comes back, but because he gets told by Sarah, no, I don't know why you're here. I can shag a bloke myself. I don't need help. I've done it lots of times. So he comes back, and then Rufus says, come for drinks with me at the pub. So Michael and Rufus are in the pub, and Michael's talking about, oh, I don't feel very appreciated by Stephen. And Rufus says, why don't you come and work for me then? I need someone like you in my London office. We didn't even know you could make T-shirts down in London. We just wear shirts. And Michael's like, interesting. Well, I don't know, because I do have a child here.
What about,
and a
speaking
family.
of children, do children in London, do they like wearing the same outfits as their parents?
Listen, mate, I don't even think I've seen a child in London. It's going to be a brand new world for everyone if you bring your kid here. Although there is a zoo, I think. So maybe you could leave the kid in the zoo. I don't know how it works. So, he's like, no, my whole life's here. Also, my mum cries when people leave home and makes everyone feel guilty. Yeah. So maybe I should stay. And Rufus is like, whoa.
No, Aggie's just got massive attachment issues, hasn't she?
She's just like, Dewey just standing there like, whoa, another one's flown.
I don't think before this Wednesday's episode we'd even seen Aggie for months. It's
no,
just
I don't
like
think so. Just
she comes out to say goodbye to a child.
So listen, on the street, you're either a sad mum or a dead mum. Which one do you want to be? So, Rufus is like, go home and sleep on it and come back and tell me tomorrow. I think we should do an EastEnders podcast.
It would be perfect, yeah.
And do all the voices. Michael tells Ronnie about the offer.
When in London.
Yeah. And Ronnie says, you should bite his hand off. Cut the apron strings, go to London, make something of your life. Don't stay here. Then cut to the Paul story. So this is what happened with Monday with Paul. Billy goes off to work. Paul phones Damon to try to get him some work, and because he can't get hold of this contact. And Damon says, I can't help you. Just go and steal a car. It's like, do a crime. It's simple to be a criminal. Just do a crime.
Yeah.
And steal a car and tell this bloke you've stolen the car.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Grand Theft Auto. So Paul sees Michael chatting with Rufus, and he sees this car, and he is very interested. He asks Michael who this guy is, and is he coming back again, because he wants to nick the car.
One thing I will say about this week, and I was very much down on this week, is I enjoyed some of the story crossovers that we got.
Yeah, there was.
Having Paul involved.
I'm really
in this
intrigued
one,
as to how this is going to tie in, because there's a lot of like dodgy things that could get.
We will talk theories in a bit.
Right.
The other one time that I'm really sorry, I know it's late. The other thing was when Glenda came in and she kind of stuck her neb into the Roy Dog story, didn't she, in the cafe earlier? And it was Glenda and Evelyn and Shona and a few others, and maybe even Sarah was there as well. So I appreciate it when Curry takes the time to do this, even if it might make my notes a little bit confusing.
On Wednesday, Michael is stressing out because he can't get in the shower. Why don't you move out then? And he has to fight Dee Dee, who wants to do a poo. He wants to go upstairs. He don't want to do it in the downstairs toilet. He doesn't want to hear her. But she has to do it down there. I would just go to work and do it there. It's like a power move against Adam.
I bet they haven't even got running water at that lawyer's office.
Probably doing a bucket in the corner. So don't make eye contact when you're on the bucket.
Although, I mean, where are you going to scrub down after you've done the deed on the desk?
They've just got a bottle of Mr. Muscle. That's probably what got him in the mood. Right, so Rufus goes to see Stephen. He's still fuming about this idea that he's going to get 50%. And he's like, I'll never be able to afford it. Oh. And Rufus says, you're getting a taste of your own medicine. You're getting a taste of your own medicine. I can't do the voice unless I do the elbows. I have to stick my elbows out.
I do love the accent back and forths.
I know. I can do all the voices.
I think we're just perfectly capturing it. I mean, as I said, we are in London recording tonight's podcast. I don't know whether there's going to be like a mob of people who say, I heard you're making fun of the way we talk round here.
No, they're like, I heard your beautiful voices from outside, and I was drawn in by the drama and fun.
You've got a top bird there, mate.
Thanks very much. So Rufus says, yeah, you got to taste your own medicine. And Stephen, he's like, you basically have no choice. And then Stephen shakes his hand and says, "I promise you this will be the last time you come out on top." And it's like all these scary sound effects and stuff.
Like as much as it was good, in hindsight,
it's better.
But at the time when I was watching this, I was, that really doesn't work. You don't need to. Even now, I'm going to say it's not necessarily needed.
Well, we'll fight about it.
You should be able to have a villain make a threat against someone without having music and sound effects to say, guys, viewers, I don't know whether you picked this up from the dialogue or the performance, but this guy's trouble.
I think the next thing we need on Corrie is like musical motifs at the end of a scene, like to let you know what's just happened. Like when Damon and Sarah were shagging it should like end with like la 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 la. No,
that needs to be a bow chicka wow wow.
Or like what kind of like mysterious music could you have at the end of it? Or like dastardly dun 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 dun.
They might as well have that as soon as Stephen comes in. And then we can just have, the audience cheering as soon as Evelyn comes in or
Welcome
something.
to this episode of Coronation Street, filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Tell you what,
Hello, it's me, Rufus. Boom. Die, Rufus.
They'd have had to have piped in a good load of laughter for Roy's wild salmon joke tonight, wouldn't they? Which, by the way, and I'll get it out now, was a joke that Roy told on the show in 1996, and that wasn't something that I found out myself. It was pointed out to me first, and I shamelessly stole it. But we put it out on Twitter. There's a scene from December 1996 where a very chipper-looking Roy, because he hasn't always been so maudlin and po-faced.
He slowed down like a tortoise.
Yeah, he comes into the corner shop and tells Maureen and Maud the same wild salmon joke. So I just love the idea that over the past, 25 plus years, this has been Roy's one go-to joke.
He's like, so someday someone's going to get this. People don't get it. That's the problem.
Anyway, sorry.
So this is Stephen's threatening Rufus. We had no idea what was to come. Michael was a bit miffed later because they're doing this interview in the Gazette about Nipper Snapper and he wants to be involved in it. And he ends up walking out and Sean and Lizzie think he's quit.
He walks out of the factory, doesn't he? Because he's not allowed in the interview. Yeah. So he's like, I'm fed up, I'm not being appreciated, nobody cares what I think.
Phones Rufus and he says, come round my house later and talk about this London deal, innit? So he goes and tells Ed, Ronnie and Debbie and they're like, oh yeah, great, you should do it. But Ed's like a bit nervous and he's like, oh, if you're going to move out of the house, your mum's going to cry. It's going to make everyone's lives hell.
You know what she's like.
She likes to cook everybody kippers and mushroom pate. Favourite breakfast meal. Stephen comes into the pub and Michael has a go at him and he's like, oh, I'm quitting Underworld. I'm going to go work for Rufus. I'm going to London. Screw you, bye. At home, Aggie's like pretending to be happy, but she looks sad when Michael walks out.
The guy is like, he's in his mid-20s now. It's about time, Aggie.
It's time to leave.
You don't all fit in that house, do you? Let's be honest.
Then we get to see Rufus's tacky house of crap.
It is a rented house, isn't it? So I don't think everything there is his own personal decor.
Yeah, but he could have chosen like whatever house he wanted, and he chose the one that's got like a mirrored female.
That's the main thing that stood out to me. The tacky mirrored mannequin. It looks like a disco ball in female form, didn't it?
I thought it was great. It really suited Rufus's personality to have us just like Temple of Tack.
It was, but that swimming pool was nice, wasn't it? I probably wouldn't want to swim in it now.
I mean, if it's cheaper.
when the house gets rented out to the next person, the buyer's going to be like, has somebody died in here?
Yeah. How did you know? Well, the corpse gave it away.
The whole the conserv. It was lovely. It was very, very nice. It was just
really badly decorated.
To my taste, the decor.
Oh yes, it wasn't for me. That's what you're supposed to say, isn't it? It's not for me.
I'd buy it at a knockdown price though. Now there has been
it's cheap. There's been a murder.
Yeah.
So it's cheap now.
I'll just drain the pool water. It'll be fine.
Sell it. Stephen's murder water. Sell it on eBay. I'd buy a bottle.
Just imagine if our competition water bottle contained some of Stephen's murder water.
Please do not drink. Right, so in his palace of tackiness, he's wandering around with his white toweling robe on, or dressing gown as we call them. And he opens. I don't know what you were talking about there. Well, that's what they're called when they're made of towel. That's what they're called when they're made of towel.
Oh, I don't call it that.
Well, some people call it a house coat.
What?
Yeah, I know. So he opens. Michael's just really confused now.
I don't know all sorts of words.
So Rufus, in his tacky palace, opens the door and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And you're supposed to be like,
"Who could it be?"
Are you supposed? It's obvious. It's Stephen.
Yeah.
So Michael then shows up at this house, and he's looking around, trying to knock on the door. No answer. Phones Rufus up, and he leaves a message saying, "Where are you?" And actually, would have been a good idea to have actually listened to what this answer phone message was, because that will be significant at some point. Won't
Quite possibly, yeah. Well, he wasn't there to answer the door, but somebody else was there, weren't they? Having a sniff around. Oh, Paul, what's he been getting up to?
Was he there at the same time?
Roughly.
He was, wasn't he? Yeah. In the Paul story, Paul calls up Chesney saying, "Can I borrow your car? I want to pick some stuff up from work. I'll have it back by tea time." Then he looks out the window and he sees Rufus pulling up outside the factory in his fancy car, and Rufus gets in his car after the meeting with Stephen, and Paul's watching, and then Paul drives Chesney's car, I guess.
Yeah.
But then how does he get Chesney's car back?
I don't
not very
think
good
we're
at stealing
supposed to
cars.
know about that.
See, in Grand Theft Auto, I just steal
matter.
a car, and then when I park it, if I forget where I've parked it, I'll just steal another car.
Yeah.
It's much easier. So.
Got to get this bit right. It's important.
Right. So Rufus gets in his car, drives home, watches him. Then he's driven in Chesney's car to Rufus's house. He's sneaking around, and he sees that Rufus is in the conservatory. And he notices he's left his car keys on the table.
As you do, tapping away at your laptop.
Well, you lost your keys. Where were your keys
today? My keys were in my pocket. Yeah, we very nearly couldn't come to London because we couldn't find the car keys. It was good, about 4 or 5 minutes, I'm going to say. We were looking for them, and they were in my pocket all along. But I did. It was very convenient for the plot and everything, but I don't know why Rufus had his car keys there.
Well, he had to have them somewhere, didn't he? He had to have them somewhere.
Put a hook by the door. Put him in a little wicker bowl.
Put them on
Give them
top
to
of
your housemaid to say, here's my keys,
throw them at
love.
your housemaid and
go and park me car for me in the garage.
Take it down Tesco and get me some more wine. So he's taking these keys, and now he's watching to see what Rufus is doing. Rufus goes, gets up to leave. So Paul jumps into action, grabs the keys, nips off, jumps in the car, and drives off, stealing this car.
And no idea what happened to him next, because he doesn't show up in tonight's episode.
That is the sound of the water coming down the chimney.
What is?
Can you hear that dripping?
No.
Yeah. Anyway, you just keep looking over there like you're listening.
I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah. I just had a funny thought that at some point during this evening, the police are gonna have to account and work out why 3 random unrelated men from the same street were in this man's house that was murdered, nowhere near where they live.
It's alright, it's Craig investigating, isn't it? He's like, I'm always just happened to be walking by when things happen. You know what it's like.
Well, that's how you solve crimes, isn't it?
Guys.
On Friday, at number 3, Michael's still trying to call Rufus, and he's leaving him messages, and he's getting very stressed because he's quit his job again. And you think he would learn the first time he impetuously told someone at Underworld to shove a job up their bum, now to come crawling back, but no. And he leaves a voice message with Rufus where he basically is like begging for his job, and then by the end of it he's like, "Well, I don't need your job anyway, you stinking bumhole." What?
Nothing.
He comes down and says, "Just ask Stephen for your job back." So Stephen and Elaine are in the cafe and they're talking about the fact that he needs a new designer now Michael's quit. And Nina's like, I know fashion and design. And Stephen's like, well, excuse me about looking at you, you don't.
Yeah, Stephen
has been a massive bitch.
180, doesn't he, on Nina?
Morning on Fridays, like, I don't care what stupid little degree you have and whatever. I don't care. And Elaine's like, oh, Stephen, how could you be so rude? I don't know what's come over you.
I'm kind of a bit confused about, has Underworld always had an in-house designer? Why is it that as soon as Michael's
once, yeah, but they Nippersnapper's a different thing, isn't it? Nobody who works at Underworld can possibly work out how to design a t-shirt. That's really advanced.
It's like, because I can't remember what happened with Nina, and they mentioned it in tonight's episode about her running out in the middle. I can't remember why or what happened with that, but it doesn't seem to me that they are in that desperate need of a designer because they've coped for quite a long time without one. But
but they've got all these contracts and they haven't got any good ideas for funny T-shirts like I'm Trouble and I'm with Trouble.
They just need to watch back the old episodes of Benidorm like we're doing and say, right, what George Shuttleworth is wearing there? What's he got on his T-shirt this week? Let's nick it. I mean, I assume that Kenneth from Benidorm can't possibly exist in the world of Coronation Street, so therefore anything that has ever been on one of Kenneth's T-shirts could legitimately, fair game to go on one of the nipper snappers, although they're all a little bit rude to have with your kid on as well.
Z-Cars exist in Coronation Street, so...
Oh yeah, Z-Cars exists. Yeah, I want to know when Evelyn was watching that when she was little and seeing all these future Coronation Street stars having their bit parts in it. Anyway.
So,
yes.
Where are you? Well, you've moved it.
I'm just at the top.
So Stephen's like, no, you're rubbish. At the factory, Sean and Izzy are gossiping about Elaine being into Stephen and him not really being into her. Then Michael comes in looking for Stephen so he can grovel. He gets told he's at the cafe. So he turns up at the cafe to ask for his job back. And Stephen's like, no, I've given the job to Nina because she's better than you. And she's like, what, really? Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, I've got a great idea for a T-shirt. And it says FBI on the front, and then the back it says female body inspector. And he's like, Stephen's being really rude. He's like, Michael, you suck. You're really rubbish at designs, and you have no spirit. But Nina, look, she's drawn all these pants.
She's got a B-Tech for crying out loud.
What have you got? And he's like, I've got a business degree. But for some reason, Stephen's got a business degree, and he's still going to Stephen, tell me all his tricks. How do you sell things?
No, he did. Is that what he said he had?
He had a business degree.
He's got
Yes, he's got a business degree. How do you think he came up with that genius idea for the app that's applause?
I missed.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course I
Who could forget?
He thinks he's got the right qualifications anyway. But
so he sends him on his way, and Elaine's like, Stephen, oh, you're such a bitch today.
Elaine's contribution to this, I think it was because like we went weeks with Elaine not being in it at all, and then they were like, oh yeah, they're in kind of a secret engaged, aren't they? And getting a flat together. Let's just have Elaine sit in the cafe with some scenes with him for some reason.
Cooked breakfast every day, these two.
I know.
Back at home, Ronnie's telling Michael, this is what you get for telling Stephen to stuff his job and being rude to Rufus over voicemail. Why don't you go back to Rufus's house and try and get your job back there? So they go there and they find it swarming with police, including Anthony Cotton's mum, who's crying in a car.
Yes, it was Anthony Cotton's mum. Anyone else recognise her? She's been in Coronation Street like
five
five different
now.
roles now. Mm-hmm. Last time that she was in it, she was playing somebody who'd won at the bingo and got mugged. And Beth saved her, and everyone was like, hooray, Beth, you're so brilliant. I think that's right. But she'd also been like an aunt of Dennis Stringer back like 20 odd years ago. I was looking down her Coropedia page earlier. She played an old crone in one episode as well. But yeah, she apparently this woman was a seamstress up until the 90s, and then she saw.
What do you mean this woman?
This woman, Anthony Cotton's mum. She wasn't always an actress, you know. Yeah. And then she kind of was looking at her son Anthony Cotton's career kind of taking off, and she was like, I want a piece of that showbiz pie.
You can do it, I can do it.
And then so she became an actress, and she's been in loads of stuff apparently. So
good for her.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'll do.
Yeah, so she was a snivelling housekeeper in tonight's episode.
Yeah, she's crying in the car because she found Rufus drowned in the swimming pool. Oh no, says Michael. It wasn't me.
It's funny because like Ronnie and Michael are there and they're just like, oh, police tape, just gonna walk underneath that. It's all right. We're main characters, everybody.
Just trying to get my footprints everywhere. We're regulars. So that you know that I was definitely here. So they go back to the Rovers and Stephen's there and he gets told and he's like, oh my gosh, this is so shocking. I need a pint of miscreants, please.
That was good.
And just to spoiler alert, Michael, I'm going to score my episodes
out of pints of miscreants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Out of what?
Miscreants. Sorry, I said that wrong.
So, is he surprised or did he murder him?
Well, I was sitting there watching this and I was like, at this stage, I was maybe like 97% sure that Stephen had bumped Michael off. But then like in the back of my head, there was a bit of me going, oh, what if he didn't? What if it wasn't
What if
him?
it was just an accident?
Maybe he did just drown in the pool, or maybe someone else has.
Very
Or no,
common.
actually, we knew that somebody else had turned up at the door with it. What bloody hell are you doing here? But like, it would have been really good trick of Coronation Street. Not that I'm complaining about how they did it,
murderer.
but it would have been a good trick if we'd have been led to think that that Stephen had killed Rufus,
but it was actually Michael. Was anyone worried it could have been Michael?
Actually, it was Anthony Cotton's mum. But let's imagine that it was the housekeeper. Maybe she's the heir to the Rufus.
And Agatha Christie.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, so I was there going, is Stephen acting surprised? Is he? I was really trying to read the expression here. I wasn't getting much, but I was like, I think, well, obviously by the end of the scene when he buys that pint of miscreants, it's like, yes, it was him. He's done it. But
who was serving him?
Glenda, probably.
Glenda, give me a pint of your finest guilty evil man beer, please.
I'll give it one pint of guilty Canadian.
I love that maple tang.
Must have been Glenda because Jenny's been missing in action since the wedding.
Anyway, before he orders his pint of naughty man beer, Ronnie tells him that, Ronnie's like lying and says, oh yeah, Michael had a meeting with Rufus and got his job back.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think Stephen's like, well, when would that have happened? Because I was there. And I spoke to Rufus. He would have brought this up. He can't have had a meeting after he died because that doesn't make any sense. So therefore, Michael's lying. So how can I spin this to my advantage? So I think he was more preoccupied with his brain spinning. Like, how can I use this?
Yeah.
Craig's with Stephen later, and Stephen tells him about what Ronnie and Michael have said about him meeting up with Rufus, and he's like. And they're like, oh, it looks like Michael might have been the last person to see Rufus alive. So, then Craig wants to speak to Michael, and for some reason he commandeers Stephen's office to do this. And so Stephen's sitting outside with Izzy there, being a cheeky little git, sitting drinking her tea. And Stephen's like, how long is your tea break? And she's like, as long as I want it to be, none of your business. What's going on in there then?
Well, come on, be fair to Izzy's missed about 3 years worth of factory gossip when she was isolating at home. You know, she's got to get it where she can. I don't blame her.
She was really unintimidated by Stephen, which I thought was quite funny. Is she going to die next? Who knows? She's got no respect, that girl. So, Izzy, he tells Izzy that about Michael seeing Rufus.
Oh yeah.
And then Izzy's like, what, do you think he did it?
No
way.
Maybe you should think that.
He wouldn't do that, would he?
I thought that was great how he was kind of dripping the idea into her ear there.
Yeah, that was really good. Meanwhile, Michael's telling Craig what happened, and then he says, when you were told that I was the last person to see Rufus alive, I actually didn't see him at all. That was a lie. And Craig's like, whoa. What? Hang on now. You said something that isn't true.
Craig's like,
that doesn't make any sense.
You're just making it more difficult for me.
No, hang on a minute, because this changes everything. This actually, now things make more sense. So you're telling me sometimes people say things to me that aren't true? No, I guess so. Yeah.
Now I look back over some of the cases that I was involved in.
Hang on, I've got a few cases to solve. I'm sorry, I've got to leave you here and go and investigate.
Obviously, Michael is making himself look mega guilty here by backtracking on what...
Oh, is he dead? Well, I didn't do it. I wasn't there. I never went to see him at all. It's all a big lie.
Exactly.
So Craig goes, Michael and Stephen talk, and Michael's asking for his job back again, and he's really, really grovelling. And Stephen's just lets him carry on.
Tell me more about how great I am.
And then the lights go out later, and Michael tells Izzy that he's been offered the position of junior manager, which sounds like junior mechanic.
Yeah.
It's a completely made up job. And she heads home, and then Michael takes Stephen in some tea, and then he's like, teach me everything you know, oh wise business guru, who just got nearly scammed for 50% of the business deal that I did. And Stephen's like, okay, are you ready for a flashback? Have some whiskey and let's just remember what I did. And so this is when we have one of the cheesiest weirdly
perfect for this story.
Absolutely love this. 100%. I was on board with this. I was just watching this with my mouth open. Like, I can't believe what I'm seeing here, because it's Stephen narrating in business talk, like he's in American Psycho, how he killed Rufus as like an analogy for like, yeah, when you if you want to make a killing,
get him on your side.
If you want to make a killing of business, just push him in the pool. I mean, in the stock market or something. I don't know. Yeah, so he's like he's schmoozing him, and then we see the flashback, and at some point Stephen's talking over the audio while he's also talking to Rufus on the screen. So you're kind of hearing all kinds of different stuff, and then we see the scene where Rufus and Stephen are kind of like there are more than one of them on the screen at once, because they're moving around, and it's showing the passage of time and the movement of the characters around the pool. And then Rufus gets up, and Stephen puts something in his drink, and then Rufus is getting more and more woozy, and we haven't got any.
It's presumably LSD, isn't it? But they don't say. But we.
Where's he going to get his LSD from now?
I mean, if I was Stephen before or after I killed
Rufus,
I'd be just finding my drugs room. He must have one somewhere in the mansion.
It's probably inside the head of the Crystal Woman.
Yeah,
that's a good Agatha Christie book name. So we don't have any of the speech of what he was saying about the business stuff.
No, I wanted to be able to rewatch this.
We couldn't rewatch anything because we were watching it live, and it's not like a recording TV.
No.
So
my dear sister, she doesn't have all the latest. I don't think she does as well.
So Rufus gets more and more woozy. Then he gets up, and he's kind of like hobbling about, and they walk alongside the pool. And then Stephen pushes him in, and Rufus is like struggling and trying to swim. And then Stephen pushes his head under the water, and all the while he's narrating this like, yeah, you get him on your side, and then you have to negotiate, and you have to make sure that they want what you're selling, and all this kind of stuff. And then at the end he's like, you feel like you could do anything, like you're the king of the world. And then you see like Rufus just floating, and Stephen's just like sitting there in the darkness with his glass of scotch and like gloating over this murder that he's done. And also there was a really good shot where he pours the scotch into the glass, and you see
see it from underneath the table
through the glass of scotch to see Stephen's face looking over.
See, were you worried at all about Michael's safety during this? Because I was thinking, even when he first started to pour basically my thoughts for this week's episode, just summarised, was I was really kind of miffed off, and it was mostly Sarah has just put me in a foul mood for most of this week's Coronation Streets and her slagginess.
You can't say that. You have to call her a strumpet or a tart.
Strumpetity. Mm-hmm. And even for this stuff on Wednesday, I was like, it looks like they're going to be building up to something. Oh yeah, we're going to Rufus's house. This is good. We're going to be able to see Stephen claim his third victim and everything. And when the credits rolled on Wednesday's episode, I was just like, we've been robbed. So obviously what's happened is that Stephen's gone in and killed Rufus, and that's why Michael can't get hold of him. We didn't even get to see it this time. I was like, what a cop out that is. So, but then as today's episode was progressing, especially because before tonight's episode, the announcer at the beginning of the episode said, this episode contains scenes of violence that some viewers might find upsetting or something.
Yes,
and we were getting into the final third of the episode, and we haven't seen any of these scenes of violence yet.
It started with the next day with Michael back at home.
Yeah.
So you knew that like it was possible at the end of Wednesday's episode that it could have picked up at night time, which I thought was going to happen. Yeah,
but even when we had Anthony Cotton's mum, the housekeeper, I was like, okay, so he was definitely dead then. And at that point, I was starting to think, I think we might be getting a flashback. I think I said to you, didn't I, that this feels like prime flashback territory here. And then when he sat Michael down to have his drink, I was like, no, I was nervous that he was going to be bumping off Michael at the same time. I think somebody else on our Twitter said the same thing that I was thinking, which was like at the very end of the episode when Rufus was revealed to have been killed by Stephen, they then cut to Stephen, who has done the same fate on Michael. Obviously, narratively, that wouldn't make sense at all, because it would look rather fishy for there to be two bodies hanging around Stephen at the same time. And also, Stephen needs Michael to be alive to be the to be the scapegoat for Rufus's murder, to take the blame for it. But I was...
also needs him to do those amazing nipper snapper designs.
Yeah, that's very, very true, actually.
So how do you come up with the ideas?
Yeah, so for many reasons, Stephen really needs Michael to be alive, but the tone that they set at the beginning of that scene when he was pouring the drinks out for him, I was like...
it really, for a split second, I was like...
Is he going to be okay for the end of this?
Because he seemed really, what's the word? Like, darkly satisfied with himself. And I was thinking, has he made a decision that he's going to kill Michael? And that's why he feels kind of at peace, because he's kind of like, he knows that this is going to happen. Because a lot of the stuff that Stephen gets worked up about is like uncertainty about what's going to happen.
Yeah. So anyway,
I love him so much.
I just thought, as soon as he started narrating it, I was like, yeah, I'm all for this. This is going to be great. And it didn't let me down.
Oh, and I also like the bit in that scene where the music was like dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was the Guinness
like from the Guinness advert, the surfer advert.
So this is like 20 odd years ago,
it's
wasn't
like
it?
1999.
Is it?
I think so. And it was an advert. Was it a worldwide advert?
I don't know.
And it's like a surfer. It's black and white, isn't it? And like the waves are supposed to look like the head of a pint of Guinness.
Yeah.
And he's standing there on the beach waiting for the waves.
Isn't it like the horses that are jumping through the waves or something?
And it's like, he waits. That's what he does.
Yeah. And it's just about waiting for the right moment.
That's the Coronation Street
to
version.
get the right wave.
Yeah,
is the same as...
He waits, then he kills everyone.
You got to wait for your pint of Guinness.
He pushes them into bin.
I remember that advert was huge it came out.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the reasons that this advert has stuck in my mind is that do you remember when Channel 4 used to do the top 100 whatevers? And when they did the top 100 adverts, that got number one.
Did it? Yeah.
And that was in the early 2000s, I think. And I remember being really annoyed by that because, you know me, I'm cool. I don't always like things that are popular. I don't remember what I wanted to be number one, but I thought that is not the best advert that has ever been made.
Great.
I'm sorry, not the best advert ever. Yeah, I do now. But anyway, to actually use that, and it's all about kind of waiting, wasn't it? Like Stephen had to, we got to, because it was a flashback and they used the passing of time bits. We got to see a sped up version, but it was all about getting the right moment and in him enacting his evil plot.
I don't know if there is supposed to be a link, but
I
felt like, they're playing this song. It just evokes this kind of idea of it's like in the advert, it's like a joyous thing, isn't it? He's finally got his. You have to wait for the Guinness to settle and then enjoy the lovely beer. Whereas this is like, he's waiting like he's like a spider in a web. Patiently.
I can totally see people having hated it. I've not read any negative comments.
Loads of people on our Twitter, because we're getting more followers now. Almost every time I'll post something, I get somebody replying going, "No, I don't agree with you."
They're perfectly entitled to not.
They do.
Like it.
They do. But I've decided for myself, my own easy way of like getting on in life and not having to stress is on Twitter. If I see something I don't agree with, I don't reply to it. I'll do my own tweet with my own opinion, because I don't see the point of trolling around Twitter and then finding something that you don't like and then replying to the person who wrote it as though your opinion means anything. Like, who cares what you think? If you disagree with me, write your own tweet. Don't have an argument with me.
Yeah.
The only time I have an argument is when somebody comes onto our tweet and replies about something really important, like the Aaron stuff, story. Yeah.
So, Stephen has claimed his third victim.
He's got three skulls.
Elaine, she is really doing a good job at avoiding. Maybe that's just why she's not appearing in any scenes.
Why are you coming at me with an axe?
She's only appearing in scenes in the cafe, like a crowded cafe, because she knows
scared.
that Stephen's not going to bump her off there.
How long are they going to move in together before he kills her?
She is going to be dead in that red bank. But I mean, we saw this coming. Are you disappointed that we kind of saw this coming? Because back when it was just last week, wasn't it, that Stephen got, or was it week before, that Stephen saw Rufus's address, and we saw the swimming pool, and we were like, we need to see Rufus face down in that swimming pool, and we've seen it. So are you happy that that's what's happened, or is it not too predictable?
I'm totally on board with a few predictable kills, but I do want him to kill somebody completely out of left field.
Yes, I think that's needed
to kill
next.
A permanent popular character.
It's got to be. It's because Leo, Teddy, Rufus, totally
they were all
disposable,
brought in to be killed by.
Well, Leo, I'm going to say
Leo wasn't brought in
wasn't.
to be killed, but nobody misses him. Sorry.
Even Jenny seems to have got over him. But yeah, I think that the next job really is getting rid of a main character, and I don't necessarily mean someone like Michael, although now he's involved himself in the story so heavily, I would say that Michael has got a bit of a target on his back as well. So's potentially Uncle Ronnie, hasn't he? Who hasn't had loads to do recently, but he's meddling. He has now been maybe meddling where he shouldn't have been. So I don't know. Maybe he's going to be next. But it can't just be the side characters. What about I just loved the atmosphere, and I love the location. We've not had a swimming pool death in Coronation Street before, as far as I remember.
People being driven into canals, which isn't the same.
Yeah, I loved all the underwater shots. I liked there was one of Rufus swimming there with his dressing gown or toweling robe or whatever you want to call it, swaying away underwater.
I was like, I hope he's got pants on. I didn't see anything.
And with all the music, it was just really, really brilliantly done. That is definitely a memorable death.
That was a brilliant death. That was great.
I'm slightly worried for Stephen that he's, we know that Michael's going to get the blame for it. Paul's going to be involved as well somehow. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Stephen has surely, he took a real risk there.
I was going to say, it's become more risky. Every time he's killed, he's pushed it a bit further into this. This could really, you could end up being caught here, because the first, when he killed Leo, it was an accident, and then he sort of buried the body, and I feel as though he did a fairly good job. But then
he didn't mean to kill Leo, did he? No. He literally, it was a fight, and Leo ended up dying during it.
And then he forgot that he had the mobile phone that could be traced, and then he killed Teddy, and there was all that question of is it going to be obvious that he's done this because of the CCTV inside the factory? Is that how he's going to get caught?
And he didn't.
And the hole punch.
Yeah. And he didn't plot to kill Teddy, did he?
No.
Teddy just pushed his buttons. This is his first...
baby's first premeditated murder.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
And now he's officially a serial killer because he's killed 3 people.
Yeah. See, even Michael was involved slightly with the Teddy murder, wasn't he? Because he came into the factory to get the hole punch afterwards or something, didn't he? So it feels like Michael's going to play the role in this of the one who pieces things together to say, hang on a minute, what about that night? Did you, that sort of thing.
What happened to Teddy's body?
Teddy's body's in the canal, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
In another box. Watery grave.
And are they ever going to find that? And if they do find it, are they going to be like, this looks like it was done with a hole punch?
I do wonder whether he's going to come bubbling to the surface, because that's what people said at the time, isn't it? Like the bloated corpse would be letting off gases that would eventually make the roof box rise. That's waiting to happen. So I think that Michael, because he's been, he's going to get arrested, isn't he, next week, surely? But he's eventually going to be the one that uncovers Stephen.
I think what's going to happen...
And maybe his life will be at risk as well.
Yeah, maybe. But I think what's going to happen is that they're going to be like, oh, we think it was Michael. We pushed him in the canal. I pushed him in the swimming pool. But the thing is, though, Michael definitely leaves a message on his answer phone that you wouldn't necessarily leave if you'd killed him the night before.
Well, you would if you want to make it look like you didn't do it, and I think that's what the police are going to say.
Yeah, but he starts off like, please give me my job back, and he's like, screw you, I hate you, you're the worst person in the world. And you'd be like, why would you wouldn't say that if you killed him?
They are reusing, I know it's not exactly the same, but when Imran died, there was a whole voicemail kind of bit of evidence that got Toya in trouble, wasn't there?
I've forgotten what I was saying now.
Oh, sorry.
I had a point.
Oh, well, maybe I'll come back to you. I'm sorry. I just thought as well, yes, it is Stephen's first premeditated murder. He obviously feels like, I've got nothing to lose now, do you think, is it? Or...
I know what I was going to say. So they arrest Michael because of this voicemail and the fact that he said he was there and then he said he wasn't there. But then I think they will do an autopsy and find that Rufus has LSD in his system. And then they'll say, it must have just been, he just obviously took too much, and then he got disorientated, and then he fell in the pool and drowned.
Yeah, that would make sense. That's
what I think is going to happen. Then the heat will be off Stephen again.
Yeah, I just think that Stephen has put himself into a really, really risky situation.
But then I think what's going to happen is that I think that Stephen's going to be emboldened by the fact that he has gotten away with it, and the fact that he almost pinned it on Michael, and Michael was a suspect, and then he might frame Michael for another murder, knowing that he's already been suspected before, and it'd be quite easy for the police to kind of
latch onto that.
Yeah, and maybe he'll fit him up.
Yeah, but don't you think that Stephen was being a bit too risky? Like, he left the body there. Surely there's evidence all over the place. He's going to have fingerprints.
Well, we know
all
he's
over.
left evidence.
Well, yes. I mean, the what we haven't mentioned so far on the podcast, although I did on the Street Talk short, is his tie pin, and that's clearly going to be used as evidence at some point down the line to say that Stephen was there.
But is this going to be another feeling necklace, earring, whatever, that just gets forgotten?
They heard us with the Stephen
earring.
They
better not.
Thing.
If they're putting in like
if you didn't notice this on Wednesday's episodes when Stephen's at the bar, Glenda, I think it is, somebody says to him, "Oh, you're wearing a tie pin or something," or "Oh, your tie pin's looking a bit loose," and that was, I'm going to say, a fairly clunky kind of Chekhov's gun there, wasn't it? It's like, well, why is that being mentioned? And I wrote it down and I thought, that tie pin is going to be... Back. And then I forgot about it until I saw somebody post on Twitter after tonight's episode, when Stephen was drowning Rufus in the pool, he didn't have his tie pin on. So I will partly put it down to that person whose name I don't remember. I'm very, very sorry if it was you. But
quite
also,
a lot of people were talking about it.
Were
on Twitter.
they?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I've got in my notes here Stephen's tie pin that I wrote on Wednesday. So even if I hadn't seen that, I'd have come up with it myself. But yeah, if you look back at the beginning of the scene when he appears at Rufus's house, he has got his tie pin. When he's there at the swimming pool, he hasn't.
This is why men shouldn't have accessories.
Exactly. At some point, that tie pin is going to be discovered, and is that going to be next week? Is it going to be months down the line?
Well, it would make he can wave it away by saying, I've been round Rufus's house before.
Yeah, I guess so. He hasn't said he hasn't.
It depends on where the tie pin gets found. If it gets found like in the pool filter.
Well, I mean, he didn't go around much, did he? I mean, he was wearing the tie pin in the conservatory, which I believe was right next to the swimming pool. So it's really going to place him there. It just seems to me that might not be found for a little bit. Although, I mean, the forensics should be doing a fairly good job
on whether he left any bruises or anything on Rufus's head when he was pushing him in.
Well, that's the other thing that I was thinking of. Like, he's going to have his tie pin there, which will be the thing that's discovered. There are fingerprints all over the place. There's fingerprints on Rufus. I mean, I don't know how fingerprints work. If somebody has been pushed into a swimming pool, does that kind of get rid of all your fingerprints?
On people?
Yeah.
I don't think that you'd recover.
No, okay, fine.
A fingerprint on a person.
Yeah, I know that...
Well, there's stuff on the glass.
Yes, exactly.
And there's going to be two glasses, and one of them's going to have traces of LSD and the other one isn't.
Well, I assume that Stephen did clear away the other glass at least.
He did.
But yeah, having bruising on the top of his head is absolutely possible, and this LSD in the system.
LSD.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think it would make a lot of sense if the police say, it was an accident, he had too much LSD and drowned. But yeah, before then... Michael has got to be in the frame for a bit, but then so has I can't figure out quite yet how Paul is going to be involved in this.
I'm really intrigued about maybe all that's going to happen with Paul is that he gets his fence says, look, this is really hot, this car, you've nicked it off a dead man, you're putting everybody in danger, buying any more cars off you.
Maybe, I don't
and then,
know.
That would be the most boring way for it to go.
Yeah, because on Wednesday, when I was fairly convinced that Michael's been bumped off, I thought, maybe Paul's going to be... Rufus has been bumped off. I thought maybe Paul's going to be fingered for this, but as far as we know now, that's the word. You just got a dirty mind, honestly.
I'm not the
Get in
only
that swimming
one.
pool yourself and clean yourself down.
No.
Nobody knows that Paul was there. He's gonna...
They will know he's there if the car turns up and they're like, well, that car belongs to a murdered man. He obviously didn't notice that his car went missing. What? Did he report his car stolen?
No.
He must have done.
No.
Well, it's the next day.
Why
no, it was the same day.
Rufus. Rufus didn't even ever realise that his car was stolen.
So Rufus never found out his car was stolen, but the police will know his car's missing.
Yeah.
And this is the license plate. And then the guy that Paul's selling the car to is going to be like, their police are looking for this car because the guy was murdered. Did you murder him?
Yeah, the police are going to wonder where his car is.
And then they're going to say, I'm not buying any more cars off you. It's too hot.
I maybe then we're going to get a week or two of people thinking, oh, Michael, it was you. Oh, Paul, it was you. And Stephen's going to think he's get away with it. And then how soon after death will this autopsy take place? Quite soon. I'm going to say 3 to 5 business days. How many of that is in Weatherfield days? Is that up to 2 weeks? Okay. I don't know. It's... The fact that this tie-pin is obviously going to tie Stephen into it is a bit of disappointing that we know, but it's one of those things that's like, ha, I knew it.
Well, I want... Sorry?
Oh, that's a good yawn.
I want a scene with D.S. McKinnon in the autopsy room
I don't think D.S. McKinnon's going to be involved in this.
D.S. Swain.
Yeah.
Who's the other one?
Beckett.
Finch McBangs.
Yeah.
Going... I want all of them there. I want Craig going, we need our best people on the team. We've assembled our finest police officers, this crack team of female officers, and then they're all walking around in the autopsy room, and one of them sitting on one of the other steel tables, swinging their legs backwards and forwards, going, "So who do we think done it?" They're all Londoners now, and one of them's walking around swigging a coffee, going, "We need to discover who done the crime." And then there's a wizened old man who's doing the autopsy going, "Hang on a minute, I think I found something." And they're like, "Oh, what could it be?" "He swallowed a tie pin. This might be a clue." "What does it say on the back?" "To my darling boy. Have fun in Canada. Love, Audrey."
I just thought of another storyline title. I think this is the thing. Tie-pin pool.
I know, when you kept saying typing, I thought you were saying typing.
Is typing pool a thing?
Yeah, typing pool is where they put all the women.
Typing pool, there we go, there's your second
Did you know that women were the first computers?
Yes, I did.
Because they used to call women who could do maths computers.
Yeah, women can't do maths, what is all this? Okay,
Oh, it's interesting that as soon as a job gets important and paid a lot of money, suddenly the women aren't capable of doing it and the men have to do it for them.
Oh, the women are just getting a head start. We're all going to get replaced by AI before long, aren't we?
Don't know what you mean.
Okay, I don't think we've got anything more to add to this story.
No, but I loved it. It was like the most special episode ever. It was... I want to put it in a museum.
It was... I'm not going to go that far.
I loved it.
It was a great final 5 minutes, but I think a lot of the rest of tonight's episode wasn't amazing. But at least it didn't have Slaggy Sarah in too much.
What I wanted out of that scene.
Yeah, they really
would
did.
Would you like some banging tunes? Would you like some weird flashbacks? Would you like a sinister talk... voiceover? And also I just want to say one thing about how suspicious Coronation Street as in general is of businessmen. Like, if there's a businessman on Coronation Street, I'm going to tell you there's probably a 20% chance he turns out to be a serial killer. Do you know what I mean? There haven't actually been that many. Killer
or some kind of
murderer.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Baldwin was just a bit of a Cockney geezer wide boy, wasn't he?
Yeah, think back, right? Of all the killers, the serial killers or murderers on Corrie, there's only one I can think of who wasn't actually a businessman, and that was John Stape. Because even Pat Phelan was a businessman.
He had his building business, didn't he? Yeah.
Pat Phelan.
Hillman, obviously.
Richard Hillman. Now we've got Stephen. Yeah. We also had Who's the guy I was thinking of?
Frank Foster.
Frank Foster?
Yeah, he didn't kill nobody, though.
Well, he was killed himself. He was cut off in his prime.
Okay, let's move on. Very much looking forward
I loved it. I want to talk about it
to
forever.
where that's going next. So now I'm getting all riled up now because I'm about to do the Damon in the Sack story, which just
can of gin.
Right, this story, this boiled my blood this week, and I feel bad because a few weeks ago it's like, yeah, Sarah Louise and Damon, they got so much chemistry, not like boring Sarah and Adam who people forget that they're even married. But then to actually see what happened on Monday happened, it just made me, I was
alright, calm down,
flipping livid about this. I was at least expecting to have some kind of build up to it, or some, you know, toying and flirtiness. Like the deadline for this bet was June. You know, we're like 2 months out from that, and they've already done the deed. I'm sickened by you, Sarah Louise. Very let down and disappointed.
Why?
Because I do, as much as I kind of make fun of her for being a useless businesswoman, I do actually really like Sarah Louise, and as a character who's been in it, you know, almost ever since I've been alive, and definitely since I've been watching.
Make it sound like you're
for a very long time. You know, I've got it's, you know, a special connection, I feel like, to the long-term characters, and I honestly think that Tina O'Brien is a fab actress. Very jealous of her de-aging process, but what have they given her? Oh my gosh. Right, okay, so she
bathes in a pool of all the actors, child actors that didn't make it on the show.
How do you reckon?
That's how she keeps her youthful looks.
I think that she's got a pool of the blood of the old actors to play Sarah Louise.
What?
She's just sucking the life force out of the old Sarah Louise.
Let's not shame her for her.
I'm not shaming her. I'm saying good on you, girl. What I am shaming her for. Shaming the character.
I'm trying to move on from her youthful good looks to talk about her being a kinky little sex pot.
That's one way of putting it.
Her kink is getting off with people when she's married.
It's like it's in some ways it's like so in character, because we're watching on ITV3 at the moment the 2002 episodes where she's like, oh, Aidan Critchley is such a bad boy, oh, I so fancy you so much, like she and obviously she was going out with Callum even though she knew that he was a drug dealer and everything, but I can't. She said in the scripts this week that she's never been unfaithful to Adam before. I can't remember her complete romantic history. Has she cheated on someone with someone else before? I don't know. But anyway, so that's my preamble. There's more to come. So Monday's episode, Adam and Harry are preparing to go to. They're going to go to Alton Towers on Monday, or was it the zoo? I can't remember.
No, they were. I know what's happening in this scenario, Michael, and I'm gonna fight for Harry here. In fact, I might murder Adam and Sarah myself, because they promised this poor child to go to Alton Towers, which is the most exciting thing anyone can ever do. And then when they didn't take him there, they didn't offer him to take him back to Alton Towers, which would have been the right thing to do. No, they offered to take him to the zoo, which is also amazing. But then he didn't go there either. He went to Granny Gale's house, which I guess there's a dog there, but it's not a zoo, is it?
Well, maybe the next one down is the park where Ollie saw his cow. Do you remember his moo cow? The one where we didn't see any cows, but Ollie definitely saw one.
Do you know what they call a zoo with only one dog in it?
Yes, I do know what it is. No, it's unsuitable for broadcast on this podcast.
You can say that. You can say it's just a breed of dog.
Come on, then.
It's just a Shih Tzu.
Thank you. It's just Gemma's favourite joke.
It's my favourite joke.
It gives her, the opportunity to use foul language freely in front of grandmas and podcast listeners alike. So Sarah needs to sort out somebody to look after Harry, because Adam's like, oh, I've got so much work to do. I know it's a bank holiday and everything, but I've been called in. And with this, we're supposed to think, oh, Adam, what a terrible husband he is. If I was Sarah Louise, I'd probably go back on my marriage vows, my solemn vows.
Well, you're very you had a different reaction to this, because you're obviously the person in this relationship that's always working during holidays. I don't know what you mean. And so you were really defensive. You're like, what? Adam's just working for his family. And I was like, at one point, Dee Dee sends him to get coffee.
Yeah.
Didn't she? Just get an espresso machine. I'm not coming in on Bank Holiday Monday to make you coffee, Dee Dee.
Usually, at least, I don't work on bank holidays, do I? You usually tell me I'm
I'm
not
just
allowed
going to tell
do
you,
that.
I might start shagging about, but I haven't found anybody.
You haven't found the right man yet.
I haven't found anyone.
Haven't found the right gangster.
No, nobody's interested.
Well, I'm sure that Danny Dyer is just living around the corner from where we are at the moment.
Here, I heard your bird's been knocking about. And bank holiday, so I'm going to go around. Oh my god, is that...
Bank holiday, more like bonk holiday, you know what I'm saying? Oh.
It's banging.
Right, well, we'll get on to what happened.
This is silly. Let's get on with
In
it.
case you didn't realise and you haven't watched it yet, Sarah Louise does sleep with Damon.
She shags
but not
about.
yet. So anyway, Sarah's like, oh, Adam, I'm so fed up of your broken promises and you're wanting to go and earn us a living.
You don't have to.
No wonder I don't want to have a child with you at the moment.
The difference between what you do and what Adam does, working all the hours of the day, is that he gets paid proportionate to how much he works. You don't.
I know. Anyway, so...
You're not a kindred spirit with Adam bloody Barlow.
She ends up getting into a car with Damon because her car's been boxed in on the driveway or something at Gail's house. And Damon's like, oh, you can get in a car with me and Dee Dee. And Sarah's like, oh no, I couldn't possibly. Oh, go on then. Which is basically Sarah, all of this whole story. So they go to Chariot Square where Sarah's got this meeting with, what was it, a potential buyer or someone?
It was a lady.
It was a lady.
Going to buy some samples.
It was a knicker lady. And Damon's there standing at the bar, still flirting away with Sarah and saying, oh, I'm going to hang around and I'm going to watch you at your work, love. So this buyer woman says, Sarah, well, you know what? Your designs look a bit soulless, actually. And then Damon comes over. They do the whole skit of, he's like the stooge there, isn't he?
Amazing designs.
Look at these pants, they're fantastic.
These pants have got 4 holes
they should be
instead of
called
just 3.
Fantastic.
Aren't they naughty? I want 5.
So he's like, I definitely want to. He say like, I'm a mega record executive and I want these pants on an album cover. I can't remember exactly what
he
it was.
He did say
something like
weird
that.
like that, and Sarah's like, Sarah's so dumb. She's like, are you really a manager of a band? No. He
ends up giving Sarah Louise a bit of papers, and the woman falls for his fake sales patter, but does also point out to Sarah that she's just been handed this guy's room number. So Sarah's
like, oh no.
How very dare he, says Sarah.
I've got to go up there to find out what his horrible plan was going to be.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't want to sleep with me.
She storms up to, let's just face it, the only room in Chariot Square where everybody always seems to go.
I'm not going to shag you,
Definitely. Hello, I'm just knocking at the door to say I'm really cross with you, but I'm definitely not. What's that, champagne? Oh, yes, please. Oh, I love champagne. She's just like such a slapper.
No,
no.
You don't have to call her that.
She's so bloody... Honestly, so I was just so
She's
mega...
She's not a slapper. She is a working mother who has been charmed by a serial criminal.
So she's like, oh yeah, I'll drink your champagne with you, but yeah, I'm definitely not sleeping with you or anything.
Oh, my pants have fallen off.
But yeah, I mean, the best comment that I read about this, I think Morgan put it on our Facebook group saying, isn't it ironic that she works for a knicker factory when clearly the elastic on hers is not up to snuff. Honestly. So yeah, she ends up basically... to cut, because I'm lost where we are in the nose at the moment, but to cut a long story short, she does the deed with him, doesn't she? He wears her down, and he's talking about I'm a bit scared. I'm going to be going to prison, and Sarah's the one that makes the first move. He doesn't even have to lean in to try and snog her, does he? He just tells her this sob story about I'm off to prison, and she's like,
I'm scared, you're alone.
And then...
what she's doing here is going, this seems like a really great no strings attached way for me to make myself feel happy for the afternoon when my husband's ignoring me and this guy really fancies me, and yeah, it's a bad idea, but he's going to prison, so it's not going to come back and bite me in the bum. No way. That's not the first time she's thought that when she shagged a bloke.
The logic. You're right, I think she was thinking that, but... This just goes against a lot of my core values, I have to say, Sarah Louise. Honestly.
Don't shag criminals.
So after the break, and they're all just kind of draped nakedly. You remember that scene last year when she was trying to get pregnant and she was there with everything on show almost on the sofa.
Lying with a blanket artfully draped around her parts.
Yeah, fair play to her. I mean,
she's got the bits.
She has got the bits. Why not show them? But she's our age, Gemma.
So what?
We and you can lounge around nakedly
Don't
and
give
saucily.
away my secrets.
But she's
Michael, what do you mean? Just because I'm a decrepit old hag doesn't mean that everybody is.
She's there. She's got a few bits of quilt covering her unmentionables.
I feel really bad now.
And Damon's there with his pecs out and his tattooed chest and everything, going, "For you are banging, missus." And he's like, she starts to get dressed. She's just there, she's giggling away and going, oh, I've never done this. He brings up the bet, doesn't he? He's like saying, I told you I'd bang you before mid, and she's like, oh, how very dare you? Oh yes, I suppose you did, didn't you? And he said, oh, you know what, Sarah, I could really fall for you. And I don't know how much to believe him. Or whether he just literally wants to get into her pants multiple times, but he's saying, oh yeah, I really like you, Sarah Lou, this would really mean something. And she's like, no, this is just a one-off. And off she goes.
I find Damon's... Oh, right. So judgmental. Right, why are you judging her and not him?
I am judging him as well.
You haven't called him any rude names?
He's a massive sex pest and criminal. Because I thought I held Sarah Louise to a higher standard.
You're being sexist.
He is obviously, he's a villain, he's a wrong 'un, he's a gangster, he's a predator. He has been wearing her down, not that it took much, for the last couple of weeks. I think it goes without saying that he's a massive wrong 'un. And also, he's not married. She is married to Adam, and
I'm just allowing you to defend yourself against all the claims of your being sexist.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm saying to be aware. He is involved in this adultery, but he's not the one that's breaking it, unless they're going to be retconning in that Damon's got a secret wife, which I don't think.
I can just imagine somebody turning up going, "Where's Damon? What do you want to know?" He's my husband.
That just reminded me as well. One of the things that we were talking about between Wednesday's episode and today's episode about who's the mystery person at Rufus's door. What if it's not Stephen? And I was like, what if he's got another sex worker in? What if it's, what he's like calling his prostitutes? Maybe one of them is, anyway, wasn't her.
Well, okay.
Anyway, so Sarah just goes away from the hotel saying, oh, we're never going to do that again. That was very, very naughty, but it was just a one-off. So
off to prison with you.
So as she's trying to pay there, this is when Michael shows up. Remember in the other story we said that Stephen had sent him on a wild goose chase off to Chariot Square to try and get him out of the picture for the meeting with Rufus. And Sarah's like, bloody hell, Michael, what are you doing here? And then Damon's there in the background and she's just like, let's go. So Michael doesn't see Damon there, does he, at all? It's just a way of getting him out of the picture, like I said. So back at the lawyer's office, Sarah's asking Adam to forgive her for being so stressy. So she's obviously feeling mega guilty about the flagrant adultery that she's been engaged in this afternoon, and is like, oh, I'm sorry Adam, you're the best husband, really. And he's like, oh yeah, of course I forgive you. And Sarah says, oh, let's get a Speeddale takeaway to make up for it. And he's like, yeah, sounds good to me. So while Sarah's out there, Damon turns up at the lawyer's office just as Adam and Dee Dee need to do some last minute prep. Well, because Adam and Dee Dee need to do some last minute prep with him for this trial that he's got going on tomorrow. Then Sarah Louise comes back from Speeddale and is like, bloody hell, what are you doing here? So nothing much particularly goes on with there. They have their takeaway, don't they? It's all a little bit awkward. But when it's all done, Damon chases Sarah in the street and says, no, honestly, I'm really falling for you. You're great. I think we could have something special here. And Sarah's like, no, this is definitely not going anywhere. You could be going to prison, for heaven's sake. I think we just need to draw a line under it. And he says, oh, you know what, Sarah Louise, you're a belter. Wish you a good life. Meanwhile, in the office, Dee Dee finds a little bit of paper with some very handy, convenient evidence on.
Thanks for the shag.
Doesn't find that. that is potentially going to get Damon off.
Oh.
And I was like, I kind of had resigned myself to the fact that Damon wasn't going to be sent down with this, but I thought that the way they did it was mega flimsy, wasn't it?
This is how it's always going to be with Dee Dee and Adam. Is always, and Imran was the same. They'd just be sitting there and they'd be like, "Oh, this lawyering's really hard work. Oh, I'm just going to read this bit of paper again. Hang on, I think I found something."
I really hate it when they do that.
I know, but that's the only way they can do it, because this isn't a legal drama, is it? It's not a thing about. It's the same as what we when we moan about murders and how the clues and stuff are never. It's not, because it's not a detective show. It's not a crime drama.
But
it's
sometimes that they have managed to make it, so it's a bit of a surprise,
yeah,
or I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I know, but I honestly don't think they can be bothered, and they don't have time, and
I
it's
wish
not
they
a story.
would.
Me too, but they're not telling the story about how does Damon get away with his crimes. The story is about.
I know.
How does Damon get back in Sarah's pants?
Tell you what, if this has told Dee Dee anything, it's like she really doesn't need Alia working for her, because it seemed that all Alia was good for was finding last minute bits of evidence on paperwork, and Dee Dee can now do that perfectly fine herself. So,
Alia didn't even find anything.
She
just spent all of her time looking at the paper going, I don't even know if this is the right way up, to be frank with you.
So Wednesday is the day of Damon's trial. And Adam and Sarah are talking about it in the morning, and she's like really keen that he gets sent down, because it's all going to be very awkward if he's left walking the streets after their dalliance on Monday at the hotel. And Adam's like, "Oh yeah, I think nobody deserves a fair trial." It's like, I can't remember, and I do often miss little bits of dialogue and things when I'm furiously tapping away notes. But do you get the idea that Adam really did believe Damon was innocent here? Because we as viewers knew that he definitely wasn't. There's no real reason necessarily.
Wasn't innocent?
I mean, wasn't guilty.
He wasn't guilty of that specific crime.
Did Adam believe? But he was guilty of having the drugs, wasn't he? Because
he's been up to no good, but he didn't have the drugs. He didn't put the drugs in his car. Nick did that.
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he? But anyway, they were definitely his drugs. So
yeah, and Damon's point later on is that, look, Nick, I didn't grass you and Leanna up, even though you're the reason I got in trouble.
Okay. But anyway, Adam seemed to be happy to get this guy
Adam
off,
is the sort of person who doesn't think too hard about whether, and I think this is correct. I think the legal system requires that everybody to get a fair trial.
Yeah.
And I completely believe that. I think even the most evil person deserves a trial, and the state has to prove that they've done something wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I know that Alia hasn't quite got the hang of that yet,
it's
but
stupid.
She's
and you
too
need
busy
to give,
falling over
especially
right at
the more evil they are, the better the defence should be. So there could be no doubt ever, when they get found guilty, that they did what they're being accused of.
Okay,
that's my opinion.
No, I agree.
And Adam, I think, it feels the same way, because he's like, I don't think it's of benefit. If you're a lawyer, your job isn't to find the evidence to see whether he did or did not do the crime. You're there to find the best defence possible.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Okay, so
he doesn't care whether Damon did it or not. All he cares about is what can I prove in court.
And also the business is doing badly, isn't it? So it's going to be in his interest.
Well, he wants to keep him out.
For him to get out of this.
If he did get found guilty, it probably would have been also beneficial, because he could have launched an appeal.
Oh, good point. Anyway, the trial starts, and this is when Dee Dee hands over her evidence that it says, her amazing last minute evidence is that the drugs, when they were taken in at the police station, weren't signed into the storage facility place until 24 hours after they were brought into the station, or something like that.
Well, everyone wants to go on the drugs.
Apparently it was. And it was like, these drugs weren't catalogued properly. Well, we can't include these in our evidence anymore, can we? And that's basically it, mishandling evidence.
The reason why is because in between the time that they were taken in and the time that they were checked in, anything could have happened to them. You could argue that wasn't even drugs, because you found a suspicious package in someone's car. then they get put into evidence, and I assume they get tested to see what they actually are. You could have swapped that with actual drugs.
Yeah, I know. I get that. I just think it was,
This is what happened with O.J. Simpson.
It's what happened with flipping Tracy Barlow with her dodgy forensic, wasn't it? But no, it just felt like a quick Corey Writer's going, how are we going to get him out of this one then? Well, let's just say that this happened.
Yeah.
But so I wanted more than that. But
who knows whether this is actually
if we're going to let him walk free. Well,
it could be like this all the time, couldn't it?
Maybe it is. So anyway, he gets off because of his inadmissible evidence. And he's chuffed a little mint balls. He's going to the bistro there. He's like, hey, I got away with it. And
he didn't say I got away with it.
Well, he basically says as good as, doesn't he? I was acquitted.
He didn't do what they said he did. He didn't put drugs in his own car.
He brought the drugs. He had the... I'm not going to argue. He should have got sent down because I'm not a fan of the character. That's as simple as. So anyway, Adam's saying, oh, well done, you got out. It's all thanks to Dee Dee and her magic reading skills. Adam and Dee Dee... Adam's kind of glad, but he's also a little bit, this is a bit awkward because all my neighbours are not very happy that he's walking the streets again, isn't he?
And get over it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it's like Leanne's always got a cob on.
Speaking of Leanne, she's in full-on Mardy Mare mode, isn't she, on Wednesday? Because she and Nick were both hoping that Damon would be behind bars by the end of the day, but he's going to strides over to the bar of the bistro and it's like, haha, no, don't forget, you still owe me money. Well, Harvey, you owe money too, but it's better to be owing me than owing him because I'm actually quite a nice guy.
I tell you what, the one thing I don't like about this.
What?
I don't care about Sarah and Damon shagging. I actually like it, and I think they should shag more.
No, you don't. You just want to wind me up.
I don't like how Damon has gone from sinister drugs overlord to, listen, I just want to have a barbecue and a few beers with my neighbours and sponsor the kid for drums or stars or whatever he's into now. He's just turned into this, like, just... If you didn't know any of the stuff he'd done before the start of the storyline, you'd be like, I don't get why does everyone hate Damon? He seems like a really nice guy.
But he's still acting a bit intimidating. He was to Nick and Leanne. I don't think he is that much. He just seems like a nice guy now. I don't know. He has lines in darkened rooms, and that just makes him...
He has lines?
No, as in he says things.
Oh, I thought you said he was doing coke.
No, he has things to say to characters boxed into darkened rooms, and that just makes him dodgy. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to believe him.
Criticising a man for his lighting choices, and I think that's right.
Anyway, so Damon reminds Leanne and Nick about this day. Oh no, I've said that already. Yeah. So he catches Sarah coming out the loos next. And
that's when women love to be propositioned.
Yes.
When they're adjusting their knickers on the way out the bog.
She probably not even wearing any, was she?
What?
I bet she wasn't.
What?
Anyway, she tells him that things would be a lot less complicated with you not here, but he's just going la la la, flirt flirt flirt, and she's like hoo hoo hoo, and he teases her about telling Adam before promising that he won't. Dee Dee seems to have conveniently overheard this conversation between them, so she asked Sarah Lou what it was all about, and she's like, is there something going on between you and Damon? And Sarah's like, no, definitely not. And so I don't fancy him. What made you think that? No, definitely. He's a drug dealer. And he threatened my brother and everything. And Dee Dee's like, no, don't believe you. The look on Sarah's face gives her away because Dee Dee's like, you haven't kissed him, have you? And Sarah's like, And Dee Dee's like, you slag.
Kissed him where?
You bonked him, haven't you? You bonked him right in bed. And so they go outside to carry on this conversation, and Sarah's like, says, oh yeah, it happened yesterday. Thought he was going to get sent to prison and everything. And Dee Dee says, well, look, I'm not going to tell anybody about this, but I can't guarantee that, what Damon's like, that he's not going to be singing it from the rafters. So they go back inside where Damon asks Dee Dee and Adam if he can get them a retainer for his other business deals. So he wants to use them, his official long-time lawyer chums, doesn't he? And Dee Dee's trying to say, no, I don't think that's a good idea. But Adam's like, brilliant. we could do with somebody like that,
we want
actually.
money for nothing.
Yeah. So later on, and Damon's winding Leanne up even more by saying, "Oh yeah, I'm your partner at the bistro," and he also asks Dee Dee about what she and Sarah were talking about earlier, and he's like, she told you, didn't she? And Dee Dee tries to deny she knows what he's talking about, but he's not having any of it. And she says, "Look, you just need to leave Sarah alone, all right? So
stop shagging her.
Stop shagging about. She's got someone else to shag," which is how the episode ends, isn't it?
They've got like a legal contract about shagging.
Have they?
Well, that's what it is when you get married, isn't it? You basically sign a bit of paper saying no more shagging about.
Yes, Adam knows all about that. There is.
That's what it boils down to.
There is one more meeting between Sarah Louise and Damon in the Ginnel towards the end of the episode, where she's still saying, "Really, Damon, come on now, stop trying to shag me again.
Even though I'm beautiful.
People start to think you're like that, Aaron.
I've got some lip balm on, look.
And I haven't got any pants on at the moment. But no, I need to focus on my marriage." So Sarah Louise goes home and just drapes herself all over Adam on the sofa and seduces him and says, "Oh, maybe let's have a baby after all, and let's let nature." She's like, "Oh, I'm just about to take my pill. Maybe I shouldn't." So anyway,
when she says, "Let nature take its course," no, nature taking its course would be you being eaten alive by lions,
no,
not shagging on a sofa,
struck down by lightning,
or dying of syphilis.
Sarah Louise does, yeah. So Friday, Sarah and Adam, they've been shagging the night away till 3:30.
Well, it's not going to work straight away.
What isn't?
Well, you can't what?
Yeah, if you haven't had your pill.
Yeah, you can't just go, "Oh, I've skipped my pill now, I'm pregnant."
Well, that's a storyline to come. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, Damon's trying to get more back involved in the bistro again on Friday, doesn't he? And it didn't take him long to win Leanne around. But
Tell you what I'm sick of hearing about.
What?
It's stupid Ibiza. Like, I used to be really good in Ibiza. I used to have a business in Ibiza. My business in Ibiza was the best. I know how to do nightclubs in Ibiza. Go back to Ibiza then.
They've found out that there's been a load of student accommodation being built between here and the city centre, and he says, right, we can take advantage of all these new students who are coming in by having late night licensing rules or something. I don't understand how pubs work, but so this means when is normal closing time? Literally, I have got no clue.
Well, isn't it 11 o'clock in the pub?
Not
I don't know about the bistro.
So anyway, he's saying, look, if we can stay up for a little bit longer than that, then all the students will be kicked out of the Rovers if that's where they choose to go.
I think
and then they'll be able to come here.
It's there in between where the halls of residence are going to be built in 2025 and the route to walk into the city centre of Manchester.
Right.
So they're saying when the students come home from their night out in Manchester and they're walking along, they're going to walk past our business, and if we're open for drinks, they'll come in here.
Yeah, so Nick, basically the episode goes with Nick and Leanne kind of mulling over whether this would be a good idea or not. Does Sarah talk to Leanne and say that it's not so bad? I can't remember, but
Adam's like, well, they call Adam in to see, can we get a licence to open later, and he's like, it's not that easy, I'll look into it.
Yeah, but basically I've not been chronological at all at the moment here, but basically tonight's episode was just Nick and Leanne going back and forth about whether we should do this, and then them agreeing at the end maybe that wouldn't be such a bad idea Damon, after all.
But he makes money, so I like money. I'm confused.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much to Andrew. Maybe it is Andre WMCB, or
Why
is it Andrew? Andrew MCB, who filled us in on that last scene, because we were we're
trying really hard to pay attention, but when you're tweeting and typing, you miss things, and we can rewind
on this TV. So they told us what happened in that last scene. So anyway, that's that.
It's the final shakedown.
Are you really not bothered at all? Why not? Why are you not appalled and disgusted by Sarah's flagrant abuse and of her going against her marriage vows, her sacred holy marriage vows, Gemma, which me and you also took?
It's not real, it's just a soap. Also, we've said all along, Adam and Sarah no good with each other.
I know.
This is what I keep thinking, right? Okay. Yeah.
I'm so conflicted.
She's naughty, minx, right? But she's not happy with Adam. He's ignoring her. He's
working hard so that they can afford their lovely red bank apartment.
I don't care. He's ignoring her. And he's like, oh, let's have a baby. And then, but he's not even thinking to himself. And she pointed this out, and I was really proud of her when she said this. You don't even look after this baby that we've got here. We've got a baby at home. We're not having a baby out. You can't look after the one you've got.
Well, I wasn't proud of Sarah this week.
No, go.
Don't know if you picked that up, yeah.
You knock boots with whoever you want.
And then we're supposed to be... Then we're supposed to be feeling sorry for her on like Wednesday and Friday's episode when he's still badgering her, and she's like,
badgering her.
Damon still is, isn't he?
No, I think she's. I don't look.
And she's going, oh, what a pickle I've got myself into. I really wish.
It's a sexy pickle.
It really would. I was kind of banking on the fact that he would have been going to prison, actually. Oh, what to do? And I'm like, got yourself into this mess, Sarah Louise. You try and squirm your way out of it.
Well, I'm still smarting from the fact that you're like finding it completely ridiculous and hilarious that a woman of my age could ever be sexy and desirable. Based on my appearance, yeah, but Sarah looks amazing.
I'm not surprised about that.
There were lots of leg flashing this week.
Yeah, well, if anything's going to attract Damon's attention, then...
Right, so...
she did have an interesting outfit on Wednesday, didn't she? That black leather skirt.
Yeah, she's like, I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to dress as.
Just to make it really, really clear that I'm easy.
So, when she slept with Damon, they literally zoomed in on like the condom wrapper on the floor. Like,
they did.
Nobody asked us questions about whether Sarah's going to get pregnant. And then we had Sarah and Adam having unprotected sex.
Yes.
And now... I just think
she's not going to get
Coronation Street made a big deal of the fact like she made him wear a condom and she was on the pill, so there's no way that they're going to get pregnant, which just makes me think Sarah's going to get pregnant with Damon's baby because they've gone on and on. They've gone on and on about how this isn't going to happen, but now because you've protested too much, I'm immediately suspicious.
I mean, they're not 100% reliable, are they?
Well, isn't it something like? What? They work out the rates for failure on contraception in a really weird way. It's like if a couple has sex for a year and something's 99% effective, then one couple out of 100 in a year's worth of using this contraception, it will fail. So It's not like if you have sex 100 times with a condom, then one time it's going to break. No. It's like over a period of a year.
Yeah.
So... And I also don't know if it fails. Is it obvious or?
I've got no idea.
So it's possible, and also pill is not 100% either. But it feels really unlikely that those two things combined, like Power Rangers, should be more powerful than.
I don't think in soaps they really know about or care to do with the dealing with messing with cleaning up and everything afterwards.
Shut up.
They just kind of do it, and then they're just like lying there going.
Shut up. Rolling around in the wet patch. Right, move on.
So I think that it's not unlikely that she'll get pregnant.
Do you think so?
I think
it's because they've talked about baby so much. She said, I don't want a baby. Now I do want a baby. I'm on the pill. I'm
Yeah, which will mean is it going to be a Who's the Daddy storyline?
Yeah, it will be. But we've just had one of them.
Have we?
Well, yeah.
What?
Well, it was years ago, but it still feels recent.
No, you're right. It does. The last Who's the Daddy storyline I think we had was Nick and Kylie and David.
Yeah.
And that was 10 years ago. But
was it really?
It was 10 years ago. It was going on. Yeah, and it feels like it's like really recent.
Do you know what this makes me think?
What happens when you get old and time speeds up?
Yeah, but right. So I imagine. In the writers' room of Coronation Street, they've got all these egg timers like dotted on a shelf, and they're like acceptable length of time between this story and the next story, and they're all sitting there and they're typing and talking, and then suddenly one of them alarm goes off and they rush over and they pick it up and they go, "We can do Who's the Daddy again! Yes! Who can we get knocked up?"
Yeah, I mean they almost did one with it's not exactly the same thing, but when Ronnie came into the show, and it was like, oh, is he? I can't remember. Was he Michael or James's? I can't remember
one
which
of these adorable Bailey children.
No, there hasn't been a proper one for a while. But the fact that the condom was there, isn't that just well, obviously it's not Damon's then. Are they going to sleep together again?
Well, she's off her pill now, so I hope not.
Well, maybe she will. Because it definitely, she was saying many things on Monday and Friday's episode.
She would say anything to a man to get him in bed.
I didn't believe her. So I feel I don't need. I will have, if this is where this is going, I will have a Who's the Daddy storyline, but I don't need Sarah Louise to have another baby. So I'm kind of hoping for a miscarriage or something along those lines. I don't want her to have a baby.
I think it's funny that if there's another Who's the Daddy storyline, it will still be that same family.
Yeah. Do you think that Sarah and Adam will survive this? Like, what's he going to do if he finds out? Right. Because the other ironic thing with all this is, a year ago, maybe even less than a year, no, it was about a year, wasn't it? The story with Adam and Sarah was she was accusing him of being unfaithful and having this affair with Lydia. And Lydia was making it all up. But she was like, oh, how could you do that? I'm married. And now she's turned around and done exactly the same thing. So is Adam, when he eventually finds out that this is going to happen, because this is always going to happen, is he going to be like, oh, well, I'm just as bad myself, Or would he do what I would kind of hope he would do and say, sling your up missus?
I prefer Damon and Sarah together than Adam and... I think that they get on so much better than Adam and Sarah did. Adam kind of treats Sarah the same way that Ken treats his wives, like... Yeah, you'll do.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't really seem to think and to be fair, she's not. Doesn't think she's very bright, doesn't really appreciate her achievements, doesn't really care, doesn't get involved, expects her to make sacrifices for his career, but is not interested in supporting her in hers.
But the problem is, we were supposed to get a lot of that from a couple of scenes of him not being able to go to the zoo or Alton Towers. If Coronation Street wants the audience to think, you know what, Sarah Louise, she's been made to feel this small in her marriage, she's been completely neglected by her husband for all this time, I don't blame her for dropping her drawers for Damon. But no, it was just like the odd comment here and there, not going to the zoo, and now we're supposed to think, well, clearly he's given her a free pass to shag around, And this is what happens when you don't develop couples and relationships. You just stick them together, then put them in a cupboard for a year, and then bring them out for the next, crumbling relationship drama, So it's... I do think that Sarah Louise and Damon are more of an exciting couple than her and Adam. So maybe at the end of this... they'll split up and I'll be like, wow, I never liked them much anyway, and maybe I will like Sarah and Damon as a couple. But I don't know, do you see Damon as a long-term character?
Not sure.
I don't.
It could be in it for a long time, I don't know, but we need antagonists. I always say that, don't I?
Yeah.
At Cheshire One, Cheshire Chris sent us a little video clip of the conversation that Adam has with...
oh, good, okay.
So it is just about the licence, so thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Right, so
can I?
I like the way you've written thoughts on Damon getting off. What was that? Getting off with Sarah?
No, getting off of the jail.
Go on,
we
what?
talked about
that.
What? I just want to say thank you very much, Coronation Street, for the graffiti club call out that we got in tonight's episode.
Shout out?
Because they talked about there used to be another place down the other end of the road that had a late night license, and it was the graffiti club.
And they turned it into a medical centre.
They did, yeah. So nice. Anyway, Sarah,
that's enough of that.
You go and think about what you've done, and I expect an apology for your...
If she's going to think about what she's done, she's going to get all hot and bothered again
next week, honestly.
Freddie or not, here Roy come. Monday, Roy has... Roy's got a friend, so don't worry about him. He's got a social life, rich and important, including Melvin, who has a dog. Right, and here I'm just going to... I need to unload my annoyance about this storyline very briefly with Freddie the dog. Every single time Freddie the dog appears on screen, they play the sound effect of a dog whining. And dogs don't make this noise constantly for no reason. It's like... Here's Freddie. It's like it sounds like a little alien off of Star Trek or something, like a tribble.
Maybe Freddie's gonna drop dead next week.
He doesn't. Dogs don't do this. It's like equivalent of like here's a man walking down Coronation Street.
It's not just Coronation Street that does this, but lots of television and film.
It's
like
such
if
a
there's
bugbear.
any kind of animal on screen,
Yeah.
they will play generic sound
Or they'll
effects.
there'll be a
they'll
cat.
have a cat that goes meow.
Yeah, they'll have a cat walk past and then it'll go meow.
Yeah.
Why is it doing that? It doesn't make any sense. But with Freddie, it's relentless. It's literally, you can tell he's on the script, he's in the scene without seeing him because it's like.
Well, that was supposed to be the thing that was.
Oh, it's so
that was
heartbreaking.
winding Roy up, wasn't it?
Well, if I had a dog that was doing that, I'd think it had terminal cancer or something.
Dogs can tell, can't they? Maybe it's a sensing dog. Maybe it's
sensing all the emotional turmoil of Coronation Street. It's like, get me out of this place. I think I'm going to get bumped off. I'm adorable. I'm going to die. I saw what happened to the last dog that's on this show. I saw what happened to Eccles. I always end up in the vet with people crying over the corpse. I don't want that for myself. I want to run free in the field. I want to go live with Auntie Pam. Right, so he's got this little dog. And Roy says...
It's made me realise that we've got 2 deaths in 1 week, haven't we? Rufus and Melvin. Probably standing next to each other in the queue.
And then it was Cerberus.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite funny.
Reckon at the body count, aren't they,
I can't remember if I said this on
Corrie?
the podcast or not, but it's really ironic that there have been quite a lot of deaths recently, including 3 human males, and the only one we cared about was a dog.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
He's killed Teddy, Rufus, and Leo, and we're like,
ho hum. Yeah, but
Cerberus, oh no, it's making me cry. So they have to leave Freddie at the cafe, I think, because...
No, they don't. That's not
well,
what happens
he
at
doesn't
all.
listen. He doesn't want the dog to go to the bat watching. That's why I was confused, because I remember him saying, I don't think you should take the dog bat watching with you. Okay. They come back from the cafe saying Melvin took a funny turn, had to go to the hospital, so I've got to take the dog in. I don't really want to. So he goes to number 9 and tells Evelyn about the heart attack.
Melvin's heart attack, yeah. Says,
I need your advice about looking after dogs. And Evelyn keeps being really prickly and keeping this whole thing at an arm's length because she doesn't want to be hurt again. She doesn't want to think about dogs, and it makes her sad and reminds her of Cerberus. So
well, she's also not on best terms with Roy at the moment anyway, is she? After he fed this killer Eccles cake to Cerberus. So that's why she's acting a bit like this.
So she's like, I'm not interested. I don't want you to palm this dog off on me. So Nina's looking up the cafe, and Roy's like, "Oh, I've just been told that Melvin's dead. But now what will happen to Freddie? Looks like he's gonna have to stay with us until I can find out what Melvin's sister wants to do with him."
I love that Roy's got an old Nokia 3210 or something, doesn't he? As a phone replacement this week.
So on Wednesday, Roy tells Shona he barely slept because Freddie is walking around going... Shona offers to take him for a walk, and then this widow phones up and she doesn't want to take the dog back.
I don't think it is a widow. I've written widow here, but I'm guessing it's actually sister.
So he goes to get dog food in the corner shop, and Evelyn's there, and he tells her about this. And she says this is a disaster waiting to happen. So Roy finds a home for the dog at the shelter, and Shona's like, "Oh no, his owner's died and now you're rejecting him. He's going to be so sad." But he doesn't care. He doesn't. And then...
heartless Roy. He's as bad as
Evelyn
Stephen.
finds Roy in the pub, and he tells her what he's done, and she's shocked. And when we did our thing on Wednesday, our summary of the day...
Street talk short,
You were like... Oh yeah, well of course, get rid of him.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
no. Sense. Sorry,
no.
Just because your mate, who you've actually never met before on screen, just because your mate drops dead, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to take in their dog, cat, hamster, African elephant.
African elephant.
He's probably got an
Indian elephant. I prefer the African one.
No, Roy is not a dog person. Clearly. I feel bad for him, but he doesn't have the responsibility of looking after this dog. No, take him to the dog shelter, where he will be very soon picked up by a family who want to give him a lovely forever home. Doesn't have to be Roy just because he's a main character.
No, I think it's wrong. I think if a man dies in your arms, You have to adopt
He
his
didn't
family.
die in his arms. He found out about it over the phone.
You have to adopt his dog and his wife.
No.
And avenge him.
I think we were supposed to be kind of appalled at Roy, but I was I would do the same thing.
I think you're horrible.
If it was
you're
a cat,
a horrible
I'd take
person.
it.
You're a bad person. You're
Why?
as worse than Sarah.
No.
You're abandoning a dog and its owner's just died.
I'm not abandoning it.
You
I'm
are.
saying go and live at someone else's home that wants one.
You're rude.
You're just saying
a
this
dog.
because you want a dog.
I want a dog.
You
I'm so jealous.
Imagine this.
Calm down.
Roy's taken Freddie
Yeah.
to the dog shelter. Yeah. You go along there and you get Freddie. You wouldn't be saying bad about...
No, I'll go along there and say, oh, can I please adopt this dog? And they say, no, we're going to go and look at your house and tell you that it's not good enough and also charge you £250. And I'll say, I don't have that money, so you can keep the dog.
Fine, whatever.
I'm just saying, don't look a free dog in the mouth. So on Friday, Roy is speaking to someone from the rescue saying, oh, I'd actually like you to come and...
I suppose I better have this dog because everybody thinks I'm a callous abandoner.
You are a callous abandoner, Roy. Heartless bastard. Evelyn is in the cafe later going, you've made the right decision. That dog will love you and you'll love it more than anything. And he's reading this manual about how to be a dog owner. And Evelyn is looking through it and then she sees a picture of Cerberus and then she gets all sad again. It's not Cerberus, obviously, it's just a greyhound. Dog rescue person comes around, does the home assessment, and then the lady asks, and then she asks him on the way out, like, just before I go, Roy, why do you want to be a dog owner? And he's like, I don't want to own a dog. And everyone's like, Roy, you can't say that. And he says, no, but I think it's a noble pursuit of humankind to engage in a relationship with nature and understand a being one cannot communicate with anything but a look or a glance, and find comfort and warmth in each other's company, even though we may not speak the same language, because he goes all day long, and I don't know what that means. Even so, we can still love one another the same way I loved my wife, Hayley.
The woman's like, it's good enough for me, love.
So I think, all right, I'm sorry.
Got a clock off now.
She's like, I've literally got a box that's 3 sentences long to write this down. So could you be a bit more precise, please? I'll just put philosophical beliefs, shall I? So, she gives
him the dog.
She's like, yeah, sounds good to me. Gotta go. I'll deliver the dog to you because that's the service that we do here at the shelter. We deliver dogs to people. I can't stop. I've got to go. And then she drops the dog off. He's running around buying food. Then when he comes back, the dog's there. And he's like really awkward and left with his dog.
I did enjoy that scene
and he's
an
like,
awful lot.
I know you don't speak English, but I'm going to tell you a joke about salmon.
So this was Evelyn had told him because he's read the manual and everything, which is obviously a very Royston thing to do. But then in practical, I've got a dog here on the end of a lead. What do I do with it? No idea. So Evelyn said you just need to talk to him and get him used to your voice and everything. And he just tries to converse with him. Roy, Mr. Antisocial, finds small talk probably excruciating, and he's trying to talk to this dog like somebody. I can imagine Hayley sitting Roy down on the sofa saying, "This is how you talk to people. Tell them your salmon joke, Roy. People love that.
Break out the salmon joke."
Yeah, and so I thought that was very, very sweet.
When he makes a reference to the fact that he's told this joke years ago, he actually did as we said earlier. Yeah. That's it. He's got a dog. I mean, I'm confused as to whether Evelyn's going to end up with this dog or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know why Roy's got it.
I think I'm sad about Cerberus and everything, but it feels like it's too soon for another character just to get a convenient dog. It's like, good job Cerberus died, because what would we have done if
we haven't got any pet budget left?
Yeah. It was almost felt like they killed off Cerberus just so they could bring in this other dog. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
And I as fun as that last scene was, and it did almost change my mind on it, I'm kind of still thinking, I don't need Roy to have a dog. I
want Evelyn to have the dog, but technically, if Roy didn't want the dog anymore, you'd have to give it back to the shelter, because usually you have to sign something. I bet they won't care. They won't care about that, will they?
So do you think... I think it's too soon for Evelyn to get a new dog. I think she needs to be grieved. She needs to grieve for Cerberus a little bit more. I don't know. It's just come a bit too soon, but I'm sure I'll get over it. I did think it was a little bit odd how it seems quite common that when somebody on Coronation Street gets a dog, they're bequeathed it by somebody that they barely know. Like when David got Doggy David, wasn't it like an old biddy at the salon that gave it to him when she kicked the bucket? And we had Eccles was given to Blanche from her old mate that died. Like, can't people just go to the dog shop and buy a dog? Is that how it works?
I think they don't want to support dog breeding because it's generally not.
But I don't know. It just seemed like I don't think we needed Melbourne.
Well, it's the same as like nobody has a baby on Coronation Street except by accident.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so that was fine. That story now.
How much have we got left?
Sorry, am I keeping you up?
No, because look at how long this street talk is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. People love it. We didn't have a bonus podcast this week, so we got the Glenda storyline. Never relender to Glenda B, and with her what's it? Little Big Shots business.
I like
which
that.
we saw some bits of when we were at the set on Saturday, weren't we? In the Coronation Street tour, when you go into the community centre, they had all of that stuff that was in tonight's episode. They had it all displayed out there, and I was like, oh, we've seen a spoiler thing that's going to happen in like 8 weeks' time. No, less than a week later, it already appeared on screen. So anyway, Glenda has got a lucky box of shorts on Monday morning because she wants them to be giving her all their magic powers so she can get a foot in the door with this stage school franchise thingamajig. So she meets up with Estelle, and what do you know? What are the chances of this? The woman who had bought the Weatherfield franchise, she's only gone and pulled out of it.
Well, I never saw that coming.
Nor did I. Can Glenda take it over, as Estelle says? Look, I'll even reduce the price to £5,000. I only want to take 25% of the profits, honestly. It'll be fine. And Glenda's like, brilliant, I'm well in there. But Eileen is somewhat wary when she hears about this, because she remembers back to not 2 years ago when Sean was caught up in this MLM story. The what was it called? Double Glammy. And she's like, this sounds like it's the same sort of thing. And I don't necessarily blame her for thinking that, and it kind of makes sense of the story. But Eileen did come across yet again as a bit of a miserable cowbag.
She was being
this
a
week,
right
wasn't she?
mardy cow, all like proper sour, nasty.
This is what
mean, Beth used to be.
It was like Beth still is. I'm going to say. I don't think that Eileen has sunk to the lows of Beth in terms of obnoxiousness, but she's getting there. I think some of the writers have forgotten, or have forgotten or don't care about that. That's not what Eileen is like. Like when she came into the show, she was generally quite a cheery, positive, kind of fun person, wasn't she? She was just very standoffish with the people on the end of the phone line at streetcars, if I remember rightly, and maybe I don't. But it seemed to me that she had a smile on her face a lot more than she had a scowl. But these days, she's just pouring cold water on everything, isn't she? And I used to love her. I still like Eileen, but I used to love her a lot more because of her kind of spark and spunkiness. And
she was sarcastic, which is different from being just a horrible bitch.
Yeah, so
and she was just like all the way through. She and also just to skip ahead and spoil it slightly, she wants to go on a cruise, and for some reason she thinks that George should be paying for this, even though why? I mean, they're going out with each other, but why does he have to pay for everything? Why can't she pay some of it?
Well,
and then
aren't they saying that she can pay for her bit and he can pay for his bit?
I don't know. I got the impression she expected him to pay for all of it because she was moaning on about wanting to go on a cruise, and then he gives the money to Glenda, and then she's like,
all right, hold your horses because you're getting ahead of yourself. Yeah, that's basically what happens.
That's what happens. The end.
We've not even going 2 hours for this street talk. Come on, it's fine. So anyway, George says, "Look, I don't think that I can afford the cruise, love. I'm thinking I might give Glenda the money for this franchise. And Eileen says, you've been a massive mug, but you know what? Your money, throw away if you want to.
Well, it is his money, so shut up, Eileen.
So Glenda comes over to number 9 later, and this is when George says to her, look, are you absolutely sure that Estelle's on the straight and narrow here, that she's not trying to pull the wool over your eyes and scam you? And Glenda's like, no, I really trust her. There's nothing. She's my mate from olden days. Nothing would go wrong. She says, she kind of drops a line in about, I've paid her back for all the money I used to owe her, well, most of it or something, doesn't she? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So it's possible that Estelle this is a massive long con just to try and get Glenda back for a 5p that she owed her 20 years ago or something. I don't know. But anyway, Glenda's saying, well, now I think maybe, George, you don't trust me. And George says, of course, you're my sister. I trust you to the end of the earth. But if you're sure that this is what you want, I'll lend you the money. Glenda's thrilled by this. And he's like, just don't tell Eileen, all right? Because Sarah Louise isn't the only one that's keeping secrets from her husband at the moment. I'd quite like to keep this one from her as well, all right? Yeah, what could go wrong, possibly? So later on, Glenda's been a bit tiddly. She's had some celebration drinks with George. Eileen comes in and Glenda says, I'm now the owner of the franchise of Little Big Shots, Weatherfield. And I've got the money from an ISA I just discovered that I'd been sitting on. And at this point, Eileen should have said, that's completely unlikely, and that sort of thing never happens to people who live around here. They just discover this magic pot of money that they never knew existed. But instead she's like, I don't believe you. I think that George has given you that money. And George is like, no, I promise I haven't.
This was why Eileen should have been mad. The lying, not the money.
If she was.
But I got the impression that she wasn't. I know maybe I'm wrong, but it's just because it was added to her sour-faced moaning.
It did add to it, but on Wednesday she did repeatedly say, it's more the lying that I'm mad about, but she kind of gets over it fairly quickly anyway. So anyway, Glenda kind of brings coffees and brioches to number 11 for breakfast to try and persuade Eileen to hand out some Little Big Shots flyers on Wednesday, because now she's got this franchise, she needs to lure in all the kids like the Child Snatcher. And she says, go and attract all the young local talent, because I've got my first meeting going on Friday.
Nothing more attractive than being handed a flyer by someone who looks like they're chewing a wasp.
So Glenda kind of swans back to the street later. She's just been buying a load of posters and bits and bobs and everything for it. And Eileen sees this and is like, well, clearly she's doesn't know what she's talking about with her money. She can't be trusted with it, because she's now wasting all this and it's just all going to go wrong for her. Later on, Glenda admits that she's only had 2 kids sign up in Little Big Shots and she needs 30 in the groups to strike even with it. Then George says, I'm starting to regret, I don't know what exactly he said, like, I shouldn't have given you this money. And of course, Eileen overhears this, and now she is furious that he's been lying to her for the past 24 hours. So they're at the Rovers later, and Glenda's handing out, was it raffle tickets or something that she was doing? Mm-hmm. To try and get money for, what was she trying to get there?
She's raising money, everyone gives her £5 or whatever, and then she keeps all the money, and then they win a prize if they're the winning ticket.
But what was?
Do you not know how a raffle works?
Yeah, no. But what was she trying to get money for? Because she already got.
She needs to buy costumes and things, didn't she?
Oh, okay, fine. Anyway, Evelyn wins 5 free salsa lessons. So, watch this space for that to happen. Friday, we've got the classes, which basically we only had a couple of scenes of this. Glenda's there at the community centre. George is impressed with how she's done up the place, and you're going to be great, it's going to be wonderful. And then we get to see one scene of this Little Big Shots group going on, which is basically all of the Corrie kids plus a couple of non-speaking extras playing Wink Murder. Is that what a stage school is these days?
I think stage school is just babysitting for parents who've watched too much Britain's Got Talent.
I think you're right. Yeah, it's for the children of tiger mums, isn't it? And pushy stage mums. Yeah, I think this Wink Murder was supposed to be all your parents are come to pick you up. Let's play one game of this. So we didn't actually get to see them attempting to act. And I did. No, okay. I'm getting the vibes from Gemma that I'm not allowed to say how ironic that certain cast members and child characters were brought in for these particular scenes. It was nice to see Jake again, wasn't it? Jake and his floppy fringe getting his murdered all over the floor. But
I want to know,
interesting stuff.
I just wonder how much of this is going to be based on the experiences that some people who work on Corrie have had with
I do
working
wonder.
with kids and what it's like, and are they going to have any pushy stage mums? Because this is really so ripe for hilarious situations.
I hope
which I'm sure some of which will be based on real life. I'm
still not really feeling it. I'm not really sure why, because I do like Glenda.
I love Glenda.
I think, and I like George, and
which is better?
On paper, I like Eileen, but I think maybe she's bringing it down. And it's also that clearly this is a bit of a fillery story. It's feeling in the similar vein to like the Ken and Wendy and Mary play, that it's got the potential of being a little bit silly and eye-rolly. And yes, but I don't know, maybe it's going to turn into something more. You can't have,
Yeah.
Not every storyline can be the A story, but I am glad that Glenda's at last getting a story of her own. Maybe I just need more scenes of it, because when it actually started today, as I said, today's only had about 3 or 4 scenes of that, because it's too busy Stephen bumping off Rufus in the swimming pool to be able to have little big shots. But yeah, so we had Jake there, we had Lily there, we had Sam, we had Hope, we had Ruby. Was Joseph there as well, I think. I don't know. It was nice to see them all, because some of them, it was probably their first appearance all year. Do you think that it's a scam?
Double scammy?
Do you think it is a double glammy scammy style thing?
No, maybe, I don't know. I'm happy to just let it unfold. I'm not gagging for conclusion or anything. I like the idea of her having a stage school, and so if it is a scam, then I'll be disappointed, because I feel as though this is actually a really good idea for a business on Corrie that isn't something we've seen before a million times. It gives characters an opportunity to talk to each other that isn't, I'm going to go to the cafe again.
Gives the kids something to do. I don't necessarily need every single Coronation Street kid there to fill up the numbers. Like, is this really the sort of thing that Sam would be interested in? Not convinced.
No, because
Lily, she's already a mega football star. Is she going to be the next best actress as well?
Whatever after school clubs go and shove them in.
Yeah, but very convenient that the community centre was able to accommodate them at such short notice, wasn't it?
What's that? You want to make a booking? No, there's no bookings to be had, I'm afraid. We've got the knitting circle, the book club. I have to say, there was a funny sign in. Well, it wasn't funny. I thought I made it funny in my head. It was a sign of like different activities that are coming on the community centre during the week, and it had book club, and it had a line through it. And this was you could only see this if you went on the tour and looked at the noteboard. Book club with a line through it said cancelled, and I was just imagining all the drama that would lead up to this book club being cancelled, and like imagining scenarios of like which characters on the street would be in this book club, and what bad behaviour would they be getting away with.
Yeah.
Like Debbie would turn up and she'd just drink or try to sell people wine. Or she'd host it, wouldn't she? And she'd be trying to upsell everybody on wine, and like Toya would come with like a whole notebook full of her carefully crafted thoughts.
Yeah.
Daisy and Jenny wouldn't have even read the book. Fizz would have watched the film. Well, but she fell asleep, so she doesn't know how it ended.
They had a book club.
I mean, it's really obvious, I know. But
they had a book club story with the Lionel Hipkiss McKellen character, didn't they? When they had the oldies in it. But yeah, I'm just nice to see the community centre, because I think that's the first time we've seen it since Griff's crayfish rant, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got to exorcise it now with happy thoughts.
Yes, and drama and comedy and bright sparkly smiles.
Yes, right.
That's what stage school's all about.
Yeah, right. Next,
Acid Ryan.
Final story is about Ryan, and Alia is still being his good Samaritan, the only person he will accept to talk to.
Yeah, he's still like pushing away anybody that wants to show him any kind of compassion.
You're supposed to watch this and to go, oh, Ali's so fantastic and nice and supportive, and she's there for him, and she is the only one he trusts, so she must be a good person. And it's really great that she's there for him when he needs her. Instead, I'm thinking, like, is she just making him agoraphobic or something? And like, don't have any visitors. They won't understand you like I will. If they see your face, they'll run away. I'm the only person who could be your friend now, Ryan. It's just me and you forever.
I wonder how many people have tried to visit Ryan just to I wonder if he's got his dressings off yet. I wonder if I can have a look.
Hello, Carla. Yes, I'm afraid Ryan can't come to the phone. It's me, Alia. He can't see anyone now. He doesn't want to see you. He only wants to see me. Okay, so... No, that's not really what happens. But Alia's talking to Roy about how Ryan's still struggling, and she visits him at the hospital, and she's concerned that he doesn't want to... He's putting off looking at his scars, and they're not going to let him out until he's confronted the reality of what he looks like. And I think, honestly, so Ryan Prescott, who plays Ryan, is it Connor? Yeah. He's obviously just enjoying this period of relative freedom where he can just have a big plaster or a big bandage stuck on his face instead of being an hour in makeup to get it on and off. So he's probably like, no, I don't want to go home. I don't want to take my bandages off. I like it like this. So she's concerned, and he's really down about it. And he also says he's still in a lot of pain, and he can't go to Ibiza now because Crystal hasn't phoned him up, and so he's feeling depressed. So Carla bumps into Eileen and George on the street, and they're asking how Ryan is, and she says, I really don't know because he won't let me see him. And Eileen says, if he's anything like my lads, you shouldn't ask, you should just turn up, because he'll always say that he doesn't want you to visit. So she does. And he lets her sit with him, and they have a nice talk, and he says, Alia's so great.
Yeah, he kind of is saying, she's so helpful, but...
it feels like there's a whiff of romance here between Alia and... It's
clear it's going to happen
that way.
Yeah, this was more of a kind of...
She just wants to go out with him because she's like, I can't compete with him. But
if you can't beat him, join him.
So I can't beat him, join him. If I become his girlfriend, everyone will think I'm a good person and they'll praise me.
Yeah.
And maybe I can get on like a TV show or something.
This is clearly just a warm-up for the storyline coming back next week. I'm kind of hoping, because this is a story that's completely dropped off a cliff, hasn't it? I've seen a few people on social media saying, I haven't watched it for a week. Is the acid attack storyline still going? What's going on with that? And people are like saying, yeah, literally nothing has happened with the acid attack storyline since a few episodes after it happened.
Like, and the effect it's had on Daisy is that she kind of had to pull on her shirt. It's like, right, gussy myself up to work in the pub, which is the scene of the crime, and make a sad face, and then just get on with it.
It's the pacing just hasn't worked with this, and the Amy and Aaron storyline, which has now dropped off the face of the planet again. I know it's only been a week or so, but it's feeling like Corrie is really, really struggling to maintain momentum in some of its biggest stories at the moment. The Stephen one is kind of working more, it feels like, even though that is also having some weeks when nothing happens.
All the budget, put it on Stephen.
But if Coronation Street are saying, hey, we're doing this rape storyline, it's all about consent, it's really, really important, and meanwhile we've got this really, serious stalking storyline, acid attack, can you believe that? And then they're saying... nothing's happening, nobody's even going to mention it this week. It feels like it's not quite right. The balance isn't there as much as it needs to be for me. But anyway, summary of the week, Gemma. I on my Street Talk shorts went Bobbins bog standard, because I was just so fuming at Sarah Louise on Monday and Wednesday's episode that it maybe coloured my enjoyment of those episodes as a whole. I was a bit fed up with Damon getting off on Wednesday. On Wednesday's episode, I didn't really enjoy the Stephen stuff, but now looking back with it in hindsight, I'm happy that it went that way. The Glenda storyline was all right. The dog story was all right. Nothing that exciting for me, but yeah, definitely the end of tonight's episode made up for it. It was definitely in the 2 territory before today, but I'm
really.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
You were hating it.
Absolutely. I'm gonna give it 3. Yeah, 3 floaters out of 5.
3 floaters.
And I don't know whether that's Rufus or something that's been left in the downstairs bathroom of the Bailey's house.
Dee, what have you done?
What about you? How many? What was it?
Malfeasance.
What? That's not a word.
Yes, it is.
Miscreants.
Malfeasance is a word.
Is it? What does it mean?
It means mind your own business. Doesn't it mean doing something naughty?
How many pints of miscreants are you going to be giving this week's
4.
coronation? 4.
Honestly, that scene
you enjoyed.
with Stephen was like my scene of the year, and there's been
No.
Yeah.
Is it really? No, I'll let you have it.
What?
I thought that. I mean, there was stuff with the. I still think the acid attack episode has been my best favourite scene of the year.
Really good.
Stephen on LSD.
Loved
great
it.
Scene of the year. It's got some strong competition.
It does.
It's a real funny year, this one. Like,
there
some episodes I'm like, this is
moments.
great, Corrie's really back on form. And then there'll be other episodes where I'm like, this Corrie doesn't know what it's doing at the moment. It's like, when I think towards, say, the beginning of last year, if I think about the pace of last year's Coronation Street, it was like really, really painfully slow first couple of the months of the year. Then Abby has her baby, and it's all guns blazing up until Britain's Got Talent Week. Really strong stuff. And then it just kind of plodded along for the rest of the year with some good bits and some bad bits. But this year, it's just been really all over the place in terms of consistently great stories. Even stuff like, the Max story, which was huge at the beginning of the year. Where's Max at the moment? Yeah, I know he's in prison at the moment, but why aren't we seeing him in prison? It's just too many characters, too many stories. Problem that there's no immediate solution for, but maybe drowning a few more in the swimming pool would be one way of doing it.
Malfeasance means wrongdoing. In
does
office.
It? Oh, you've just been looking up it. Oh, well done.
I knew it was a word.
Okay.
I knew it meant doing something naughty.
Not a good name for a brand of draft ale, though.
No, but it's a beautiful name for a baby, Sarah.
Do you have a character of the week, and it better not be Sarah
Louise? Stephen, love you, Stephen, Uncle Stephen, be my friend. He's my favourite.
I
love him. I love him so much. Character of the year.
I don't know whether
Stephen Reed.
I don't know whether anyone else can particularly stand up to
Remember
Stephen.
Although
I was a bit fed up with Stephen even on Wednesday when he did his stupid. You think you're on top? Well, I'll have the last laugh.
I'm gonna drown
Here's some scary sound effects.
In a pool.
I didn't really enjoy him there.
Well, you're wrong. There's in or out with Stephen, and if you're out, you're against us, and me and Stephen are going to get you.
I'm surprised you're not giving Roy character of the week for taking on little
No,
Freddie
because he dumped him first.
Yeah, but he took him back in the end.
No, that's rubbish.
That's all that matters.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's obviously Stephen.
Go
Stephen
on,
is every week.
Go on, Steve.
Every week.
No, sometimes it's Daisy.
I'm backdating it. Every week is Stephen. Uncle Stephen, love you.
You are not got. I'm not going to say you've got the entire Corrie viewing population on your side.
Well,
of that
listen,
one there, Gemma.
Me and Stephen will beat them up. And
Just
drown them in the pool.
There we go. Okay, so 4 from you, 3 from me, 2 votes for Uncle Stephen. Congrats.